is the claim here that those intelligence officers made a mistake and really thought this was Russian disinformation and then realized it was Hunter Biden's laptop?
Like, again, this is the normalization of the crazy.
Because there are disinformation campaigns from Iran.
Okay, never mind. I don't know who this lady is. She's about to get bullied like crazy on this panel. It feels like if I were to give this opinion, I've already lost 80% of the audience. I've probably lost 20% of the audience on my screens. But like, look at these guys laughing. They don't believe the disinformation from foreign actors. Excuse me. Let me introduce you to a well-known disinformationer, Leah Thomas. These are the real threats. Okay. Have you seen the drag queens at the local library? Like, look at them laugh. Foreign enemies, foreign interference.
Mark Zuckerberg blatantly admitted that both Facebook and the FBI interfered in the 2020 election.
You're equating.
Oh, now we trust the major media guys. We didn't trust, I guess we don't trust Taibbi and the Twitter files, who had every incentive, by the way, to say if the FBI did directly intervene, and they all said that they didn't. So we don't trust the Twitter files. We don't trust, obviously, the DOJ or the FBI. We never trust them. But we do trust the CEOs that we didn't trust before when they say the things that we want to hear. Okay, gotcha. We don't need to say this.
I think Elon is a genius. Maybe he does, but doesn't care just how powerful his battering ram is when he tweets things like "Free Tommy Robinson." Why should Tommy not be free? Today's headlines have been dominated by a media titan with a bold message on free speech and being uncensored. But we begin instead with Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta, has unveiled sweeping reforms to the world's biggest social media business, or as I would call it, a screeching 180.
And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. To our roots.
That his admission that the re-election of President Trump, a man he once deemed too toxic to even have an account on any of his platforms, was pivotal. Now he's announced a partnership with Trump to push First Amendment rights around the whole world. Zuckerberg took a massive swipe at the, quote, legacy media and the infamous fact checkers. Well, they've gone.
Hackers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US.
Well, CNN's Brian Stelter said the quiet part out loud when he posted, all in line with the desires of President Trump and Trump voters, out with the fact checkers that conservatives direct.
Do you think Tommy Robinson should be in jail? Yeah, my understanding is he had, I think the UK for certain sensitive trials, I think have media gag orders and will arrest you if you're trying to report on them, or if you're like trying to go in and like get videos of people or whatever. You're not supposed to. And I think he's violated these like over and over and over and over and over again. So, I mean, it sounds like he's breaking the UK laws. If you break the law, you probably go to jail. I think that's how it works, right?
Right in with more permissive rules for posting conservative opinions. Now, whether you're conservative or not, what exactly is wrong with permitting conservative opinions? The fact is that fact checkers have always been biased, as Zuckerberg now admits, especially when it comes to President Trump. His decision to copy Elon Musk community notes at a time when Musk is at the heart of the new administration, assuming the whole of global politics, is no accident. I like community notes. I think they're a good thing. Of course, this could all be a cynical ploy to appease the new masters that is just as easy to reverse in 4 years' time. But I don't think it is. I think Trump's election is already reshaping our culture in seismic ways. If he gets his way, it might also be reshaping the global map, planting a US flag in Greenland and beside the Panama Canal.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
And can you tell us a little bit about what your plan is? Are you going to negotiate a new treaty? Are you going to ask the Canadians to hold the vote? What is the strategy?
Yeah, I can't assure you. You're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two.
So King Musk, MAGA Meta, and a US invasion of Denmark. Quite a lot to unpack with my panel. I'm joined by the host of the Part of the Problem podcast, Dave Smith, host of the Dean Obeidallah Show, Dean Obeidallah, author and host of Pivot, Kara Swisher, and the Tim Carr CEO, Tim Pool. So I've got to say, an absolutely stellar lineup to kick off this panel. Kara, I'll be trying to work out just how big your head may have been exploding.
Loaded, Piers. It feels a little loaded. I guess it's just me. Go ahead.
You can more than hold your. I can have 10 men up against you, Kara, and I'd back you every time.
True.
But I've been thinking about you because your head must have been exploding, hasn't it, the last week with all that's been going on with some of your favourite people?
No, my head doesn't explode, Piers. No, I this is what they're like. You know, I don't know if you've read my book or not, but this is what they're like.
I did, yeah.
This is exactly the way Mark always was. And he's like, I called him, he's kind of a sad weather vane. He just sort of tips and goes along depending on what's in his self-interest. And
do you think Piers might pivot to glazing Democrats now that Trump's president? Nope. It's just he'll follow the online audiences, I would imagine. He's got a formula right now that he iterates on, and he's like successfully kind of like captured the whole like far right outrage machine. And so now they've reverse captured him, and it's just going to be like basically serving the slop back to them, like the entire media sphere does online.
This is what he is like. He's always found it irritating that he has to have responsibility for anything or consequences anywhere in the world, and doesn't consider himself a publisher. And so he'll do whatever it takes at whatever time it takes. So I found him disloyal to almost everyone, including back when he threw Trump off the platform. I just don't trust him with anything. And in 4 years' time, he'll switch again if it's in his best interests, financial interest. Really.
I mean, he wouldn't be the first media titan to go where the power and money wind blows. But on the detail of his statement yesterday, it was a pretty extraordinary reversal.
Well, it was also full of it was a little mendacious on a number of things. By the way, there are a lot of conservative fact checkers in that fact checking situation. And many years ago, he talked about how AI was going to solve this, and now it's community notes that's going to solve this. It's a multifaceted problem. And the real issue is the site is built for malevolent players, and sometimes governments, sometimes people, to do whatever it want on the system. It's a system that's impossible to fact check. It's a system that has no guardrails on it, and it's a system in which he uses the First Amendment when it suits him. I actually don't think he's read it, even though it's short and first. Governments shall make no law. Like, it doesn't say Facebook shall make no law. He makes rules and then he breaks them. And he says, with Alex Jones, he did that with all kinds of things. And then he reverses himself. Holocaust deniers was a good example. He told me in an interview, and we got, I was like, well, he said Holocaust deniers don't mean to lie. And I said, well, that's kind of the definition of a Holocaust denier. But and then 2 years later, reversed it. And then who knows if he's going to, now he seems to have reversed it again. And so I don't think he has any particular principles or values that are lasting. He can do whatever he wants because he's king of that.
Well, yeah, to a point, I guess he can. Dave Smith, what did you make of this?
He's king of that site. Piers, he can't be fired ever. His children can't be fired. Let me just be clear. He has total control of that site.
But you're talking to the wrong accent when it comes to kings. We like our kings. We like kings.
I know, you have a better king. I'd rather have Prince Charles running that thing.
We believe in maniacal power. So,
yes.
Dave Smith, I found it jaw-dropping, to be honest, notwithstanding a lot of what Cara just said, that she wasn't remotely surprised by the wind blowing, but to actually see him, trot down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the Trump ring, as it was put, and to then do really what turned out to be half mea culpa and half screeching U-turn over pretty much everything that Facebook had stood for, was pretty spectacular to watch.
Yeah, it was incredible. And, I want to be clear. I think this is
always listen to how these guys that lied about being centrists, always listen to how they talk about like Trump and the MAGA stuff. It's always like, oh yeah, I'm so happy. Like, it's so strange that they... Did Dave Smith admit for the first time, was it next to me when he was cowarding the entire conversation? He was like, I think I have to support Donald Trump, to the surprise of literally nobody. Nobody is surprised about this.
Was pretty spectacular to watch.
Yeah, it was incredible. And, I want to be clear. I think this is a really positive thing. I don't believe in so like, I kind of want to be happy about it, but all of my instincts are just to rip the guy, because especially because he doesn't acknowledge there's no acknowledgement that he did something wrong or that he's changed his mind on this. It's kind of this just vague, like, oh, I created this to give people a voice. And a lot of people think this stuff went too far. And like, yes, it reminds me of, I debated Chris Cuomo last year, and it reminds me of him coming out and saying like, hey, you guys, this ivermectin stuff isn't horse dewormer, it turns out. It's people medicine. And you're like, yeah, that's what we were all saying at the time, in my world at least, and we got a lot of abuse for that. At one point, I do think it's worth just pointing out what happened over these years, even though I think there's a very positive change.
Now it's time for a dysfactual accounting of history by Dave Smith, where we lie about every single thing, cite to absolutely nothing, and misrepresent the entire historical record. And by historical record, I mean within the last 8 years, in order to suck off Donald Trump again. Oh boy. Also, the whole reason why Zuckerberg doesn't want to take accountability is because the messaging right now isn't so much that the media companies have messed up, or at least the alternative media companies have messed up. The messaging is that it was Biden's fault. Biden was the one doing it. That's why Zuckerberg doesn't want to take accountability. Because if Zuckerberg takes accountability, then it takes away some of the accountability from the Democrats. The message can't be that Twitter or Facebook made mistakes. The message is the FBI and the DOJ made them do it.
I was just playing on my show the other day, a video clip. I'm sure all of you guys have seen it. But Mark Zuckerberg blatantly admitted that both Facebook and the FBI interfered in the 2020 election on the Joe Rogan Experience. And, for all of the news coverage, and to some degree, rightfully so.
Post the evidence. Again, remember also, like detailed reports from the FBI, from the DOJ, from investigations, from studies. None of these things matter. It's all fake news. The studies that show that right-wing information was amplified on platforms doesn't matter. Fake news. Leaked emails. None of these things matter. None of these things matter. But if the CEO of the company, who also, by the way, stands to gain a whole bunch by saying the things he's about to say, comes out and sides with the current administration, and then the current popular move towards that administration, crazy that he would come out and say these things. But there's we don't even stop for 1 microsecond to second guess his motivations or anything. It's astounding to me. That's astounding to me.
So over the last 4 years, about January 6th, about some of Trump's claims of the election that him and his lawyers were really never able to demonstrate at all. But how about that admission that the FBI came and told Facebook, be prepared for a Russian dump that's coming soon. And then when the laptop came, you have 50 plus intelligence officers signing on to this letter saying that this is the Russian disinformation. And he admitted to censoring people for that. This is blatant.
Just remember that letter that was publicly published, right? That was after companies like Twitter had already put the laptop story back online. The 50 letters or whatever, the 50 whatever people sent letter, that didn't come before, that came after the laptop story. But
election interference by the FBI and one of the biggest tech companies out there. I mean, you know, I would think if you're going to reverse that, it would also come along with like an apology and some admission of what you were a part of.
Just nothing he said. There's not a shred of evidence for any of this other than Zuckerberg going out and cucking himself out with these public statements now. But no evidence, nothing leaked, nothing published by Zuckerberg, who would have access, by the way, to all of these emails, to all of this. Zuckerberg could very easily publish any of this information, I would imagine, or at least reference it. But it's always just like this vague bullshit that MAGA sloppers like Dave Smith love to.
You know, he says he created the site to give people a voice. You robbed your fellow Americans of their voice in a very important, crucial point in American history.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was a New York Post columnist at the time that all went down with their exclusive on Hunter Biden's laptop, which turned out to be a completely genuine story and certainly wasn't rushed.
We're going to hear this Hunter Biden laptop genuine story. Do you think in a single time in this entire thing, they're going to bring up the fact that the Burisma investigation started because of this guy, this informant who lied about everything involving Burisma? Because this came out like not even a month ago. Alexander Smirnov entered his plea to a felony charge in connection with the bogus story, which was about the phony bribery scheme involving President Joe Biden and his son Hunter that became central to the Republican impeachment inquiry in Congress. But this is what kicked off the whole Burisma stuff. It was all built on a fucking lie. But we all knew that because the Republicans investigated this for the better part of the last decade and found nothing. That's why there are no charges. That's why we only have these weird tax things. There's nothing. But I hope we don't bring that up a single time here.
And disinformation. And the way that all played out was quite extraordinary and pretty terrifying to see that the New York Post.
Although, guys, come on. Tech companies make mistakes the way publishing companies make.
But that wasn't a mistake, Clara, was it? I mean, it wasn't a mistake. They actually, hang on, my point. They actually banned the New York Post X account completely.
Yes, they did.
If they didn't take down that.
Do you think that he's going to bring up that it was for less than 24 hours, the timeline? Do you think that'll ever be brought up? It won't. People were saying this woman is crazy. I don't know anything about this woman. I don't think I disagree with anything she's actually said so far. I didn't disagree with any of her opening, but I can't tell if she's slanted in one way or another, but I don't think I disagree with anything. But yeah, remember, no mistakes. Everything is done intentionally. Everything is done malevolently. Everything is evil. All of this is,
a true story. I mean, that is the most blatant attack on free speech I've ever seen.
But it's not free speech. It's not a government institution. Companies do that. Disney didn't put out a movie in China because the Chinese
government. They have the counter for this. Piers is going to try to say it doesn't matter here, but either Dave or Tim is going to come to his rescue and come to Trump's rescue and say, actually, sorry, it was government interference because the only reason they did it is because the FBI threatened them implicitly to do so. One of these guys will save Piers here and saying,
make it right though, doesn't it?
Of course not, but it's not, you're equating Facebook. You're equating Facebook or Twitter with the government. It is not a public square.
No, I'm not.
It certainly was not. Listen, I was not equating Facebook and the FBI, and I think it is reasonable to point out that a lot of these big tech companies were under duress, really, since Donald Trump won in 2016. All the heads were hauled in front of Congress and threatened up and down if they didn't get this misinformation problem under control. But is the claim here that those intelligence officers made a mistake and really thought this was Russian disinformation, and then realized it was Hunter Biden's laptop?
Again, this is the normalization of the crazy. Imagine what he's just said, he's just turned on its head. What happened, right? Imagine somebody looks at my Snap map, okay? And they see that I was in Omaha, Nebraska, and then they see that I was in New York City the same day. And they look at you and they're like, okay, well, we see how far Steven moved. He teleported. And the other person's like, no, he probably flew in a plane. And the guy's like, are you going to tell me that thousands of pounds of aluminum and engines overcame gravity and flew through the sky? It's like his statement here. Are you going to tell me that all of these people working in intelligence thought that there was a chance that Donald Trump, the guy who had publicly already glazed Putin, had already publicly called for Hillary's 10,000 emails to be released, who had people in his cabinet, or not cabinet, I'm sorry, his what do you call it? Campaign election team. People like Roger Stone that were literally working alongside Russian operatives. You're going to tell me that these people genuinely thought there could be some kind of Russian interference and not instead my theory, which is way more believable, that all of the intelligence agencies were in cahoots with each other and they were all working in a malicious way. Now, keep in mind that not only does his story have zero evidence, there's evidence for the other story that literally came out from people who were pro-Trump, right? The Durham report, I think, is the one I referenced that dug through the FBI, found there's probably kind of political bias here and there needs to be more checking on stuff. That was the scathing review. Not that people were maliciously working to lie against the Trump administration, right? But his story somehow gets to be presented here as like, oh, you're going to tell me that, that these people made a mistake, and it's not obvious that there was a massive, huge global conspiracy top down through all of our federal government and all of the social medias and all of the like.
That those intelligence officers made a mistake and really thought this was Russian disinformation.
And also, how dare you, you cowardly little spineless cuckworm? How are you going to sit here and say that? How are you going to sit here and say there was this grand conspiracy and then not implicate Trump at all? You're going to tell me this conspiracy was so huge and so grand and involved all of our intelligence agencies and involved all the different like line members and all the heads of these agencies, but the head of the FBI, Donald Trump, if you go far up enough, right, didn't know? How is this conspiracy so grand, but it just stopped right there, right at the head of the FBI? How? What? Like, we're not going to think for a second about it? Because you better believe that if it was Biden or if it was Harris or if it was Clinton or if it was Obama, that he would have been personally involved directing all of this, right? Like, hello?
And
our government,
Hunter Biden's laptop?
Our government should be talking. Go ahead.
Tim, no, let Cara finish up, and then I'll bring you in, Tim.
The government should constantly be talking to lots of companies because there are disinformation campaigns from Iran.
Okay, never mind. I don't know who this lady is. She's about to get bullied like crazy on this panel. I hate that, like, this goes back to the normalization thing. It feels like if I were to give this opinion, I've already lost 80% of the audience. I've probably lost 20% of the audience on my sources. But like, any reasonably intelligent person would say, social media companies are massive. They have huge power in the United States. Of course, there should obviously be some communication back and forth between our intelligence agencies and these massive social media companies. That's obviously true. But that feels like an opinion that you wouldn't even be able to fight for. Like, people would just automatically already, like, there's nothing you could say to convince somebody else. Like, that's such an obviously true thing.
Bring you in, Tim.
The government should constantly be talking to lots of companies because there are disinformation campaigns from Iran, Russia. You can't pretend that China's not all up in our grill.
Like, look at these guys laughing. They don't believe disinformation from foreign actors. Excuse me. Let me introduce you to a well-known disinformationer, Leah Thomas. These are the real threats. Okay. Have you seen the drag queens at the local library? Like, look at them laugh. Foreign enemies, foreign interference. Sorry. Only USA does that. Now, you notice that Dave Smith here is laughing and Tim Pool's not. That's because Dave Smith is still on the Kremlin payroll. He hasn't gotten busted yet for whatever foreign bullshit ass money that he hasn't been caught with yet. And Tim Pool has. So it's not as funny for him. But Dave still thinks this is all like really fucking hilarious because his foreign owners are still supporting everything he says.
To lots of companies because there are disinformation campaigns from Iran, Russia. You can't pretend that China's not all up in our grill. You just can't. You just can't. And there should be discussions between government and companies. They're going to occur, by the way. Let's
see. And then how does Dave Smith cock out of this? Because I don't think he'll ever directly say he has one of two. He's got one of two chairs that he can sit in basically while he watches his own country getting asked by Donald Trump. He can either sit in the chair and hold up the sign that says, well, America does it worse, or he can sit in the other chair. Oh no, there's two chairs in the first chair. It's America does it worse, or America does it to itself worse than anybody else does it. And then the other chair is maybe they interfere, but everybody does, and it's not a big deal. These are one of the two chairs that he wants to crawl towards right now. Let's see.
Been occurring since the beginning of time, way back when. Go watch Oppenheimer. There's discussions happening all the time on all levels between companies. The question is, what is pressure and what is important discussions that these companies, because they are the nexus of all these information systems.
Oh my God. One of the biggest complaints that I have with conspiracy theories is that it takes away oxygen from real conversations, okay? I don't know if I would agree with her on everything or not, but what she just said, and it sucks because this is an important conversation. What does count as pressure, right? And there are legitimate questions asked. If the FBI sends you a message and they say, hey, there might be some issues with this, and you know that the current administration might feel a way about a thing, and you know that that information seems to align with that, and you've got decisions to make. That's a good question. What does count as pressure? What should that communication look like? What should the accountability mechanisms be? These are really good questions. But we're not going to spend any time on this show talking about that. Everything she's saying right now is wasted because it's going to be mixed in with the MAGA slop. And the problem is that having a conversation with the MAGA slop involved is like adding diarrhea to a mixer of the best like milkshake you could ever make in the world. It doesn't matter. It's just going to taste like shit.
Should be having, and what are the guardrails against government overreaching? I am all for stopping government overreach. I did a great interview with Edward Snowden about this issue. Perhaps the way he did it wasn't right, but what the government was doing was wrong. They fixed it. There should be guardrails around these things. The question is how it's done. But what happens is there's a fever dream on the left and a fever dream on the right of what's occurring, and it's a little less nefarious. I think that Facebook, unfortunately, occupies a far too important role in news distribution as a kind of monopoly. And that's the problem we have going forward. It's a private company that's determining what everybody sees. And they're going to not just make mistakes. We're at the behest of Mark Zuckerberg's obviously incompetent ability to decide what's right and wrong. And why should he? By the way?
Let me bring Tim in. You've been waiting patiently. Tim, your response.
Free speech is a principle. When we say that Facebook...
Tim has no principles.
Tim Pool defends Destiny's ban.
Crazy. The free speech advocate?
There's no way. This must be taken out of... This is the part where they try to manipulate you for being a good person into letting evil succeed.
Huh. Weird. I thought he was a free speech absolutist.
Well, not if you're evil.
Oh,
you have to suppress Satan.
And who decides if you're evil? Tim Pool does.
Tim Pool.
Absolutely based. Tim doesn't understand anything about free speech. I'm not even convinced that he's an American citizen. I don't know if these guys are all like fucking salt or whatever. What's that? Where they're like children that are like bred in other countries and then they end up being swapped out for American citizens as like secret like sleeper agents or whatever. They always show themselves, they always tell on themselves too. As soon as they start bringing up like the First Amendment or bringing up like freedom of speech, like these people have no concept of anything about the country or America or freedom of speech or anything. These are like sleeper agents against the Republic.
Let me bring Tim in. You've been waiting patiently. Tim, your response.
Free speech is a principle. When we say that Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever platform is silencing free speech, we are not talking about the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects multiple rights, of which one of those is free speech. So this constant conflation of a private company isn't violating your First Amendment. I'm not going to bring up the First Amendment. I'm going to go on a platform, I'm going to express my ideas and share news. And if they silence me, they are violating my free speech. Now,
like in response to that, she should just start screeching at the top of her lungs. Just scream. She should just be screaming. And she should do it until they mute her mic. And then when they unmute her mic, she should say, was he just attacking my freedom of speech? Is this good freedom of speech? Is that what you mean when you say freedom of speech? That every single person has an equal right to every single platform to say every single thing they want at every single point in time? Or...
More importantly, this argument about, you mentioned there's a fever dream on the left and the right. I want to make one thing clear. Mark Zuckerberg coming out and saying that now we're going to have more free speech or whatever it is he's trying to say. This is not a pendulum swing. This is not the weather vane. Certainly, I do believe the man is just bending the knee to whatever power structure he sees. But if we were actually going to see a pendulum swing in the other direction, they would keep the fact-checking program, ban the liberal news outlets, and only allow conservative outlets to fact-check posts on Facebook. When you look at all sides, when you look at ground news, the majority of U.S. fact-checkers had a liberal bias, and only one, which was associated with Daily Caller, was considered to be conservative-leaning.
So this is just like the standard 75 IQ or Russian agent talking point that like, yeah, most of the fact checkers lean left. Well, what if one side is lying more than the other? I mean, what do you do then?
And when numerous outlets on the right made attempts to get access through Pointer to the fact-checking system, they were denied that. So now, once again, what do we see? When real quick to another point, back to the First Amendment issue, I just want to add, the government had backdoors into X and Facebook where we actually got to click the link and go to the login portal for the federal government to go into Facebook to flag posts. And there was an instance where if you said the name Eric Charamella on YouTube or Facebook...
Excuse me, what? What is he even referencing here?
I just want to add, the government had backdoors into X and Facebook where we actually got to click the link and go to the login portal for the federal government to go into Facebook to flag posts. And there was an instance where if you said the name Eric Charamella on YouTube or Facebook, your post would be inexplicably deleted. And everybody knew that was happening. And this is real.
I don't even know. What is the Eric Charamella stuff? Is a senior fellow in the Russia and Eurasian program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. His work focuses on Ukraine and Russia. Wait, this isn't the same guy, is it? Who is this guy? Wait, what the Wait, I'm sorry, Wait, what is this? Oh, no, wait, this is a different guy. Did I typo that? Wait, is it this guy or was it this guy? I'm so confused right now, but whatever, okay. Is it this? Would you come back to A&M and work with the Aggie Dumbs again? To do content or whatever? Sure. Facebook has deleted my post where I was talking shit about them, censoring the name Eric Charamella. Your post goes against our community standards on coordinating harm and promoting crime. Eric fucking Charamella. Go fuck yourself, Facebook. Go fuck yourself, YouTube. Shove your fascism up your ass. And then it's a link to a video? What did he even get? What is it even taken down for? Was it for the link? Was it for the language? Was it for the... Okay.
Real clear politics that it broke the reporting on Eric Charamella. So what we're looking at since Elon took over Twitter and turned it into X, we have...
It was the CIA whistleblower that got the impeachment inquiry going. Gotcha.
consistently seen a dominant liberal or Democrat party bias on these platforms, and when the problem is quote unquote resolved, you get neutrality. There's been no circumstance where we have seen a right bias or conservative bias or a pendulum swing in the other direction. So Mark Zuckerberg right now is declaring neutrality.
Remember, it's always essential. This goes into the normalization as well. And the centrists have done it, the centrists, right? All of these centrists are conservative. They're hard MAGA. Like, they're not even soft MAGA. They're hard MAGA. But they present themselves as being like the center, the normal, the ordinary, the apolitical, the nonpartisan. And that gives them, it reframes the conversation so much, right? Like, even walking into the room, somebody like me is like considered hard left, far leftist, crazy leftist. And I'm not even remotely like a socialist or communist, but I'm already like far left, just because that's where the conversation has been framed at. So it's really essential that when he says things like the pendulum hasn't swung, and you're like, wait, what do you mean? It obviously has. He's viewing people like Elon Musk as like non-political people, or he's viewing people as himself and Joe Rogan as being either like still kind of liberal, like center left, or like centrist. That's what they're always doing.
He's not actually swearing fealty or kissing the pinky ring of Trump.
Well, fascinating.
Are you kidding me?
Dean, over to you.
The idea that what Mark Zuckerberg is doing is part of the plutocracy. It is part of the oligarchy. They're going down there and giving $1 million each to Donald Trump, Tim Cook, Jim Bezos.
It's just such an unbelievable. What's happening, dude? I butchered the spelling on this. What is it? Over $200 million. That was 5 days ago for the inauguration for this giant like dictator authoritarian event. Like, the people who is there a list of the people who've donated so far to this? I say the names of the companies. I don't know if that was from the company itself or Sam Altman plans to give $1 million, Uber, OpenAI, other crypto weird things, XRP. Oh, Bezos did, I think. Amazon plans to donate $1 million in cash. Like, it's just so insane but like MAGA will look at this and say like, oh, it's okay. Why does Trump need money for his inauguration? So he can throw like basically a fascist authoritarian style party for him being inaugurated. To be fair, it's normal that incoming presidents will have an inauguration, and a lot of people donate money to it. But I think the next most expensive one was like $60-some million. And I think that this was so far has raised over $200 million. Why did all the big companies go against him on his first run, and now they do a 180? Well, because Trump has signaled. Remember what I said before when we were talking about preemptive strikes? And I'm like, if you're going to have like a policy of preemptive strikes, people need to know about it, because it's the whole point of the preemptive strike is a threat to deter the action. Donald Trump has said over and over again, he goes after enemies. He's going to go after people that like attack him. He's going to open the defamation and libel laws. He's already sued people that said things he doesn't like about him. He's already said he's going to do this. So if you are a company, I mean, you probably should be trying to suck up to Donald Trump, because you don't want to get on his bad side, because he will come after you and he will fuck you up in the ways that they said the Democrats were fucking up other companies, but didn't actually happen. But it will happen probably, or at least people think it's going to happen under Trump. So everybody has to kiss the ring, basically. Unfair left leaning. Click on meter to rate this article. Oh. Wait, what is this? Trump says Mark Zuckerberg is probably responding to his previous threats by changing Meta's direction. Oh, we saw this as Zuckerberg recently dined at Trump's Mar-a-Lago club, part of a larger wave of tech CEOs hoping to reset relations with the incoming administration. Meta is also donating $1 million to Trump's inauguration. Trump's first administration and several states teamed up in 2020 on a major antitrust lawsuit against Facebook. Oh, also, remember all that Section 230 and how important it was to get rid of Section 230 to protect the internet and all that? They'll never talk about that again. We're done talking about Section 230. As long as they're like doing good by the conservatives, they're okay to act like exactly how they're going to act. As long as they're cool with yeah. In 2021, Trump, then a former president, sued Facebook and other platforms for banning him in the wake of the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. They've also been highly critical of Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan's charitable giving ahead of the 2020 election to help local election officials deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. People are saying that you can't post the article right now about Adrian Dittman on Twitter. Is that actually true? Can somebody try that in my chat and post a screenshot? We are watching him closely, Trump wrote in his book earlier this year in a section about Zuckerberg. And if he does anything illegal this time, he will spend the rest of his life in prison, as will others who cheat in the 2024 presidential election. It's a pretty fascist statement. Future leader saying that he's going to lock up people that say bad things about him forever in prison. But, you know, I'm curious what that quote is from. Like, is this here like somebody saying that they heard Trump say this, or somebody try and post that article, that Spectator article on your X account? I'm curious if you can. Republicans must pass the SAVE Act or go home and cry yourself to sleep. Non-citizen illegal migrants are getting the right to vote, being pushed by crooked Democrat politicians who are not being stopped by an equally dishonest Justice Department. Our whole voting system is under siege. Harmeet and David, go to court and get this stopped now. The Dems can't win on their policies. The only way they can win is to cheat. They do it at every level of government, and they do it well. That's how they get an incapacitated moron like Joe Biden elected. Get tough RNC Michael W., Speaker Johnson, and all state and local Republican politicians. The Justice Department is corrupt and won't do a thing to help. They have no shame. All I can say is that if I'm elected president, we will pursue election fraudsters at levels never seen before, and they will be sent to prison for long periods of time. We already know who you are. Don't do it. Zuckerbucks, be careful. Like, this is like literally, this is just like a straight out, like, these are just like authoritarian, like, it feels stupid to even say, because we're past, like, these are like Hitler tier statements now. We're past the point of like, this looks like kind of fucked up. Like, this is just the thing. This is just like the worst. Well, we're at like the right before the worst. The worst is him actually doing it, I guess, now. But in terms of like rhetoric and everything, this is like maximum rhetoric. Like, we've maxed out on it now. This is as bad as it can ever be. And then now it's just seeing if he follows through on his actions, basically.
So, Jeff Bezos, you have Elon Musk, who's been the biggest oligarch of all. They're bending the knee. They're doing whatever he wants.
And then Elon Musk, like a good oligarchical puppet. The SAVE Act will safeguard our elections by ensuring only American citizens vote in federal elections. Here's what the legislation does. Elon Musk retweet. Those who oppose this are traitors. All caps, traitors. What is the penalty for traitors again? Keep in mind, this is the same guy who's friends with the guy who's going to come into the administration and pardon all the J6 people.
I wish that on the left and the right, we could put aside politics and say we need a system where big money is taken out and the power is given back to the people, to us. And then we can fight fairly on the issue that oligarchs spending millions and millions of dollars to corrupt our elections. And on the right, you know, like George Soros, okay, let's ban his money as well. I'm fine with that. Mark Zuckerberg, what he's doing is bending the knee because he is a fear.
But I think deep down, they wouldn't be okay with that, because I think deep down, I think they know that it's not true. Well, the content creators know that they know 100%. Like, Dave knows it's not true. He's a liar, or foreign agent. What's the Russian version of Timothy? I just need to refer to them by their...
Timothy.
Is that even a name in Russian?
Timothy. David.
I can't pronounce this shit. Fuck that. Timmy and David over here are collecting their fat stacks, so they know this is bullshit. I think even the average Republican, I think, knows it's kind of bullshit too, right? Like, the only time you're ever hearing about George Soros is when a conservative is bringing them up. Like, Elon and Zuckerberg and all these other guys are so visible. They're so visible. They're so visible.
You know, like George Soros, okay, let's ban his money as well. I'm fine with that. Mark Zuckerberg, what he's doing is bending the knee because he is fearful.
Nobody will engage with that point.
He's afraid to put him in jail his entire life. That's the back to the First Amendment. The guy who in jail for the rest of his life. A guy who threatened ABC and CBS. A man who threatened Donald Trump Saturday Night Live.
Who is this? I don't even know who this guy is. But yeah, no one will engage with any of this. Piers will ask a clown question, and then they'll just kind of like move on.
After the comedy show canceled. So he is not a bastion of free speech. He is a strongman leader, a potential dictator, and they fear him, but they're about making money. So Mark Zuckerberg now is changing these rules and putting Dana White on, Trump's big buddy, on the board at Meta to make Trump happy. Leave him alone so he can make more money. Same thing with Bezos. Same thing with Cook. The list goes on. We live in an oligarchy, a plutocracy, to be accurate. I don't know why on the right you're not angry like I am about the wealthy controlling our...
We are. And then the next line, right, is the script. I can't do the Russian translation, so I'll just read it in English. The next line for the script is, we are very angry about all of these things. We realize that this is a really bad thing. However, you have to understand that this has already been going on. The Democrats have been doing this the entire time. We're just trying to catch up.
The destinies of people. Let's get their money out and we can fight over the issues. I'm all for that.
This is the funny thing about what left and right really means. I completely agree. Billionaires, millionaires dumping tons of money to manipulate this is a bad thing. What I'm talking to specifically, when I'm saying kissing the pink ring, if you want to make the argument that they're donating money to his inauguration and things like that, let's have that conversation. But Donald Trump, if this is Mark Zuckerberg trying to placate or please Trump, and he's settling with, I will let people speak, that's Trump accepting neutrality. If Zuckerberg was actually going to try and play this game that we had seen over the past 8 years or longer with Facebook, he'd say, you know what, we're going to bring on 10 new fact checkers, the Daily Wire, Breitbart, National Review, and we're going to give them preference, and we're going to remove PolitiFact and Pointer's authority. But that's not what he's doing. He's
because they've already, the left has already done all these horrible bad things.
Saying, you can finally post again, which it's funny because when he basically downranked politics, he nuked his own platform, and it made most podcasters abandon the platform as a place where you couldn't do business anymore. So again, you want to talk about money? I agree.
All my friends have posted about Palestinian issues, about Gaza, the suffering in Gaza and the West Bank. Where my family lives in the West Bank under occupation, our stuff is banned. We get thrown off the platform of Meta, of Facebook, of Instagram. Let's not play games here. These are oligarchs who have a financial motivation for what they're doing. Tim, you know that. Dave knows that. Karen, we all know this. We're on board. What are we going to do about it? We live in a new Gilded Age of the rise. We're going to rise up with a backlash and have reform. We're going to let them control our collective destiny and be their serfs. That's our question.
Well, I think Dean touched on something that's very important. And Piers, you know, I've said this like so many times.
We're about to get. So Dave has like 12 libertarian fans left, and they're like, Dave, we remember when you were a libertarian and you were principled. Dave, please. And now Dave is about to pay his 10 seconds of lip service to, yeah, I guess some of these billionaires are maybe bad, before he pivots immediately back to criticizing the left. Let's see.
On your show that in many, oftentimes people think of the divide as left and right, but the reality is usually that the divide is between the regime and the dissidents.
Yes.
And so the point that you're making, Dean, about if you are critical of the current policy, which is to support Israel in their war in Gaza, then yes, then you're on the other side of the regime on that issue. Mm-hmm. And same if you're against supporting the war in Ukraine. But look, so it became, look, the thing that was the worst year of censorship was 2020. Okay. And in 2020, I mean, this is when I had a private group.
Keep in mind the disconnect. Okay, so we did the usual thing. The disconnect, 2020, just one of these, please, she's my spirit animal. I just need her to say, 2020 was the worst year in censorship. The worst. Dave Smith made that claim. 2020 was the worst year in censorship. Who was the president in 2020? Please, God, ask that question. Or this guy, who's the guy in the middle, he can ask the question. Please, God, one of them ask the question. Please, God. Because I guarantee it. If it was Biden or Obama or Harris or whatever, or Clinton, if one of them were president, remember in 2020 when Hillary was president? Remember in 2020 when it was Biden's administration?
For supporting listeners of my podcast on Facebook that got completely nuked, because you literally, I remember the video that got nuked were two doctors. This was in April of 2020 who were talking about how the ventilators were killing people. And this wasn't like an accusation of a conspiracy. Nobody was saying that like doctors meant to be killing people. And of course the doctors realized.
Excuse me. Somebody please link the video that he's talking about. Because if it's the conspiracy that when you put somebody in a ventilator, they're going to die. I've heard people talk about this, but it was bullshit. Especially in the early days of COVID, resources were already limited. If you were going on a ventilator, you were in a rough spot. You probably were going to die. But it's not because the fucking ventilator is going to kill you. It's because you need a machine to help you fucking breathe. You're in dire straits at that point. It's like saying if you put somebody on fucking bypass, their chances of renal failure or whatever the fuck else is way higher. The chances of somebody dying is so much higher as soon as you put them on bypass. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. He needs bypass. He's in a bad condition right now. Same thing with a ventilator. I thought, my understanding is the early ventilator survival rates were like 10%. I think they're up to like 40 or 50 now, but it was dire straits. But I want to know, somebody please find me the video that he's referring to. Just two doctors. I bet both of these were like COVID Front Care Alliance people, like the fucking misinfo doctors.
It wasn't like an accusation of a conspiracy. Nobody was saying that like doctors meant to be killing people. And of course the doctors realized they were right and ended up changing course. But the point is that had nothing to do with left or right. It was like, we're doing lockdowns. This is the policy of the regime. And if you're out there opposing this policy, you're going to be silenced. And just to the one point that was made earlier about misinformation from Iran or China or any of these things.
Oh, we're coming back to this. What did I say? There were two chairs. One is either, well, the US does this, either to enemies or to ourselves, or that pales and it's not even that big of a deal. It's like not that big of a deal to us, okay? Which chair? Is it going to be one of the two? We came back to this. Thank God we came back to this. Or is there another position that I'm about to discover?
Silence. And just to the one point that was made earlier about misinformation from Iran or China or any of these things, I'm a libertarian. I don't like governments much anywhere. And all of them are guilty of misinformation.
There it is. Yeah. He's just, I wonder how much he gets paid. Fuck me. Well, I don't need the money, I guess. It would be nice though. I think I could do it better than either of these two guys. Listen, Ivan or whatever the fuck, pay me, okay? And I can write all the scripts for these guys. Well, you probably only write one script because they always all have the exact identical fucking talking points. I could do these talking points better though, and I can make it like more fun. You don't need to though. I'm sorry. Everything I'm saying is a waste of time because this is good enough. This is enough for a maggot to hear that in 2020, to hear that 2020 was the worst year of censorship in U.S. history apparently, and to not even think, well, whose administration was it?
And lying. But the point is that we were talking about our government, who were the ones involved in the misinformation, claiming that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. That was the lie.
Yeah.
And so you've got the
ironically, that was the disinformation.
You're being willful.
Were the ones involved in the misinformation, claiming that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. That was the lie.
Yeah.
And so you've got the
ironically, that was the disinformation.
You're being willfully naive. This is a worldwide information war going on with these companies.
We can't talk about this. I don't know who she is. People in chat keep saying I disagree with her on a lot of things, apparently. She's about to bring up, this is what I'm saying. She's like I don't even know how long she's spoken on here. Her talking point, this is the only stuff we should be talking about. These are the good conversations. There is a worldwide information war going on right now. We don't even acknowledge it in the US because the left is too scared of Russiagate and the right has weaponized foreign actors for factious division in the US because it's benefiting them. So we can't even talk about it. There is a information battleground right now in the world, but like literally the right welcomes it. Like literally, not literally in the figuratively sense, but literally in the literally sense. Donald Trump wanted to ban TikTok. And as soon as he saw that TikTok was helping him, now TikTok is great and he doesn't want to ban it anymore. Like as long as the foreign misinformation is helping me, then I want to be okay with it. So we can't even talk about the massive landscape of international cyber intrusion and misinfo shit. We can't even have that conversation. And yeah, so whatever she's about to say is going to get ignored, and I have to leave early again tonight. How mad are you guys? My boy Dr. K is in town. I like to have dinner with him, okay?
You're being willfully naive. This is a worldwide information war going on with these companies. And Tim knows this. Tim knows this. Like they're infected everywhere. Many years ago, I wrote a column about 7 years ago about TikTok and the possible national security issues surrounding it. I got pilloried for it, anti-China, this and that. And I said, well, it makes sense that they would come here because they have this massive landscape in the United States that is so porous.
Oh, no, we're not doing anything else tonight. I moved it to tomorrow, didn't I? Oh, I need to change the daily thing.
And so easy to manipulate and so easy to enrage whatever side you're on, that it's almost laughable how much we're all the victim of in many ways of the ability of our incredible innovation, right? And the problem is the people making the decisions. Like you can debate all you want whether he should have taken Trump off of Twitter during the things. Everyone has a different opinion. But the fact of the matter is, my issue was 2 people made that decision in our country to do that. Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey. 2 people got to decide something that is which is a much bigger debate that has to happen within our country. It is about the concentration of power at the top. And right now, Elon Musk is paying $2,000 a night to speak.
Yeah, and that is something to be concerned about, right? I think I even said it when it happened, even though I hate him, and I still hate him, and I'm praying every day for things. The idea that I can't see what the president of the United States is putting out because the social media platform banned him, that's a really interesting world to live in. There's a lot of power there. That's a very spooky-ish, that's just a weird thing. That's a weird environment to exist in. And yeah, that's a conversation that would be good to have. But these guys love it. As long as they're banning the people that we don't like, then we're good to go.
Be 300 feet away, or probably more, from Donald Trump. We can't do that. We can't have the same thing. They're all handing over money, and Donald Trump likes money, apparently, from what I've read. And they're able to...
Look at how upset he is. It's like he's bullying his like big brother. No! He's like, no! Look at how mad he got when she said that. There's like a visceral response. He's so upset about it.
And Donald Trump likes money, apparently, from what I've read. And they're able to access and get what they want, which is no ability to have privacy laws to protect consumers, no ability to have new antitrust laws, for example, that are critical to creating innovation. So
none of those things are coming. None of that's coming.
both conservatives and liberals can create new media companies. They can quash us because there's so many laws that aren't passed. And let me just say, there's one industry in this country, in a capitalist society, that has everyone else has to have some regulation.
Media is my guess.
Some of it good, some of it bad, but every other one has to have it, except for the tech industry. There's exactly 0 laws on the books about them. And the law that...
Oh, she's just saying who's not. I'm sorry. I thought she was going to say who should be regulated in every country. She's saying who's not regulated. All the tech companies, yeah. Which is also why, by the way, all the tech billionaires and giants are jumping in bed with Donald Trump. Because if they all pay him off and they buy him, then hopefully no regulation, nothing that's going to restrict any of these like AI ventures or any of these crypto fucking ventures, any of this bullshit. Yeah.
That exists protects them from immunity. Can you imagine? I'd like that. I'm sure Piers would like it. Rupert Murdoch would love it.
They're like, hold on, excuse me, wait a second. Excuse me, did you just insult one of my 2 dads?
You opened this by saying I was being naive and then just totally sidestepped my point and talked about other things, some of which I don't disagree with.
I'm thinking naive that foreign governments see this and think candy fucking stores. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I can say that. They say candy store and look at our country that way.
Again.
Yes, you're right. Now he needs to, now remember, Dmitry and Ivan and Natasha, okay? Maybe they're in his headphones right now, okay? That's okay that Russia is doing like bad things, but remember, the US is doing it even more, or at least just as much. Remember, the US is doing it just as much. Don't ever let him forget that. Don't deny Russia does bad things. Don't ever do that. That's a sucker's game. But just always make sure to say that the US does it just as much or more. Always make sure you say that. Always make sure you say that. Always focus on how bad the US is. It's a horrible country, terrible place. Everything about it is horrible and bad. Always remember that.
And this again, that still has. How is that naive? I didn't argue, but I'm still missing the naivete. I didn't argue with that.
Is that we are in an information war with these countries, and if we don't understand that we have to have given that the U.S. Companies are at the center of it, we have to have some way for our government and these companies to talk to protect U.S. interests, at least in the
yes. But you're dodging my point. You're dodging my point, which is that the American people
I'm sorry,
are also
I got lost in ivermectin, but go ahead. I'm teasing you.
Okay. All right, fine. Well, my point is that American people are also in an information war with our own government. Yes. And that has actually been the most dangerous enemy in this information war.
It's always the worst. America is a horrible country, dog shit country, bad government, bad people, bad actors. Everybody's always horrible. It's always worse than the US. Good job, comrade. 4,000 million rubles have been deposited into your Russia PAL account. Thank you. Good comrade. Good job, comrade. I say this lightly in the background so we understand what's being.
And that American people are also in an information war with our own government. And that has actually been the most dangerous enemy in this information war over the last 25 years. And so
the most dangerous are powerful private interests that are interested in their own self-interest. The government is not it's like when the Hollywood people are fighting with each other with the Hollywood companies. You know who their enemy actually is? Apple and Amazon and Netflix. And
they've come in and bought out huge sections of the entertainment market that tech didn't traditionally inhabit.
We're fighting with Disney. That what's happening is these companies occupying every single part of our world and quashing innovation that's necessary so that many more voices can be heard.
I don't disagree with that.
Okay, let Dean jump in there. Dean?
Here, Piers. And to me, banning speech is not good. To answer the speech you don't like is more speech, right? You counter it. Unless it's really inciting violence. I'm a lawyer, so at that point where it really is call for violence, that's criminal. But what we need in America is to invest in critical thinking skills so Americans on their own don't believe something just because they like it. And I say that on the left, as someone on the left, my friends forward me something. I go, there are no links to any sources here. They're like, oh, it's great. They're like, yeah, but there's nothing backing it up. And you're being misled. And some on the right the same way. We get misled because we like what we're being told. If you have critical thinking skills to go, I like this, but let me go Google it. Let me go search on any other platform. Let me fact check it on my own with some reliable sources. Then this misinformation doesn't get gravitas. It doesn't resonate. We go like, we know it's BS.
People forget this.
So imagine if Jones had just said, well, that's okay, Charlie. That was all right. Good job. Then Charlie thinks to himself, well, shit, I did do a pretty good job. End of story. No bird. That to me is an absolute tragedy. But that's just what the world wants now. I wonder why jazz is dying. Amen. And every Starbucks jazz album just proves my point, really. There are no two words in the English language more harmful than...
Do your own research. Because nobody does.
I mean,
That's my...
these
technologies
are different.
Today, maybe not.
This
But I think, honestly,
different.
if people are taught the skills to question, then it makes it
different.
different. It makes it... I have confidence in people.
These tools are addictive. These tools are addictive. They're necessary. And they're ubiquitous. And they're also, they flood the zone with so much information that it's impossible for the human brain to take it in a lot of ways. And
yes. It should just be her cloned 4 times and we could actually have a real conversation, like without this naive bullshit. What's the solution to bad speech? Is infinite freedom, infinite free speech everywhere. Like, that's not how literally anything in the world works. Nothing ever in the history of all of every discipline, everything ever has never worked this way. And there are incredibly powerful tools that are geared towards maximizing the amount of money that they can make off of you. No one here gives a fuck on Facebook or Twitter or whatever about what's true or what's best for America or anything. It's just about making money. Those interests might not always be aligned with what's the best for the country.
so it's so super sized.
It's
Very
Human brain to take things in. I think if people want to learn, if people want to learn, if they want to question, if they like...
How many people is that? How many people are doing their own research legitimately?
No, I love it. I get this. Whatever it is, Truth Social or a liberal posting, and that's it. That's life. You can't reach them. My question, look, I don't want to agree with MAGA. I don't think we should all agree in America. I think we should debate in good faith and passionately and argue with each other. That's the beautiful thing. We shouldn't be misled. And the people are...
But they have to be real arguments. Like her with maybe this guy, these people could have real arguments. These guys, I don't want people who are on Kremlin payrolls dictating, and maybe Piers too, I don't know. But these two guys should never be having conversation. At the very least, Tim Pool is disqualified from ever being allowed to have a conversation in a journalistic environment. Even if I take your story at face value, okay, you are an investigative journalist who couldn't investigate that you were getting paid $5 million for a year of dog shit content. Sorry, bro. Even if your story is true, that's even a bigger reason to disqualify you. Like, you're clearly, if you can't even investigate under your own nose for shit that you literally have your grubby little fucking hands in, how the fuck are you expected to give good takes on literally anything? Why would anybody trust you for anything at all? So you're disqualified immediately. And Dave doesn't reach the IQ threshold to be allowed near electronics without hurting himself. So he would be banned as well. And then it would just be like these people and 2 clones of each of them.
There are bad actors at the top who are misleading good Americans.
Okay, let me bring in...
One of my biggest anger...
I couldn't find the 2 doctors, but here's the reference to them. The ventilator talk? Hold on.
Hey, you want to hear a crazy one also? For all this hoopla about the...
Is that Dave's? Oh my God. Okay.
Ventilators, they're finding out that the ventilators, like 80% of the time, when they got to put someone on a ventilator, the ventilator doesn't help. It actually stresses people's lungs. And for
Yes. That's what ventilators do.
All that was like the biggest thing in this whole thing was there aren't enough ventilators. And it could be that, well, the ventilators aren't going to do anything anyways. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was reading about that it's
There are systems that have been engineered for so long to perform functions, okay, in the human body, like cleaning the blood or bringing oxygen into your body, okay? And the best thing that we've discovered so far, for the human body at least, to help people breathe are your fucking lungs. It's your body. Your kidneys filter shit so far better than most machines that we've found. Your liver does good things for enzyme and hormones and other whatever bullshit. Your stomach is good at digestion. Your lungs, your diaphragm, this whole that whole process, your body basically does it the best. It's hard to just replace organs with bionic fucking things and make it better. Ventilators are incredibly stressful on the body. So is dialysis, by the way. Like all of these machines, these assisted living machines, are just ticking time bombs for how long you can basically go until you die. You're going to have so many compounded issues that are going to just start popping up that are stressing different parts of your body. You're going to die eventually. You can't live for very long on these machines. There have been improvements on the tech or whatever, but they're stressful. Yeah, ventilators they're harsh. And if you're on a ventilator, what have we said, right? If you've been put on a ventilator, that means that you're in such dire straits that your body can't breathe anymore. Whether that means the diaphragm isn't working enough and you're too weak, or whether that means for some reason your lungs are just not oxygenated enough, or so whatever's going on, something is breaking down severely here. This is like a death state, right? You can't breathe. You're dying. You would be dead, right? I don't understand how somebody can say, by the time you put in a ventilator, you die a lot. To use my example over and over again, yes, just like chemotherapy means you have a much higher chance of dying of cancer than somebody not on chemotherapy. Because if you're on chemotherapy, you already have cancer.
This whole thing was there aren't enough ventilators, and it could be that, well, the ventilators aren't going to do anything anyways. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was reading about that it's actually turning out that the majority of the cases, the ventilators aren't helping. And man, isn't that another thing to throw?
Just think about what you just said there. In the majority of the cases, the ventilators are not helping. In the majority of the cases, the ventilators aren't helping. In basically every case where you need a ventilator, if you don't have one, you're dead. You're dying. So if they don't help in the majority of the cases, that means they are helping. Like in the majority of cases, you know that CPR doesn't work, right? But generally, absent the CPR, you're dead. So as long as it's helping sometimes.
Throw into the fucking mix, and it's just, it's crazy. And then it also the other thing that's going on now is that the consensus seems to be, of course, that we need another stimulus bill. And they were talking about this for a while, but they actually proposed one in the Senate the other day. It didn't go through. I think the Democrats said it wasn't big enough or something like that. But the idea of this, the payment protection plan, which was, I don't know if you read about this, but this was in the $2 trillion stimulus bill. It's basically a plan where they will, small businesses can take out loans. There's a certain amount of money allocated for loans to small businesses. And if they don't fire anyone and don't cut their pay, then they're eligible to get either part or all of those loans forgiven. Okay? So that's the plan. So the 250 of these people, Ron Paul used to always say, that his differences with other, congressmen were it's philosophical. Like they don't have the same philosophical worldview that I have. And I'd always kind of be like, he's letting them off the hook a little easy. Like I think they're just corrupt and evil. But I really am starting to think now, it's like, oh no, there really is this philosophy problem where I think so many of these people just didn't really think that it would be that devastating to the economy to halt production for a month. Like, oh yeah, but there's enough wealth that if we just move it around, if we just have some government spending, we can just loan those businesses the money and then that's fine. And then we'll forgive the loans and that's no problem. And I think people are starting to realize like, oh shit, this actually really is going to destroy millions of businesses. So
I always think it's so funny and interesting. I mean, it says a lot about like the type of world we live in, that fiat currency and money and financial stuff, that's all fake because it's bullshit and we don't have gold and that doesn't mean anything. But like production and businesses, that's real, right? And in COVID, we shut down shit for real. Companies weren't producing goods and things like actual real physical things. They got shut down. And in 2007, 2008, that was all like bullshit paper, like financial instruments. It was all like fake stuff. But it took the world and all of us so much longer to come back from 2007, 2008, the financial crash, than the COVID stuff, which is very interesting. You would have imagined that like the COVID shit would have taken decades plus to come back from because we shut everything down and that was real and crazy and horrible. But the 2007, 2008, the ripple effects through the economy was so much worse.
That part's very real.
Yeah, I mean, also on the money stimulus side, when they put together those loans, they didn't tell banks how it's unclear what extent those.
Okay. All right, back to this.
With Trump,
let me segue just slightly with Tim, just to Elon Musk specifically, because over here in the UK, he's been basically taking on the country in spectacular fashion, calling for our prime minister to be in prison.
Wouldn't it also be accurate that 100% of people who were put on ventilators would have died if they weren't? That's my understanding. I'm sure that the percentage is probably a bit higher now for people that would have survived. But back then, I think the ventilators were in shorter supply. So if you were put on one, you were in a real bad condition. So my guess would be close to like 95% plus of people are probably would have probably died if not put on a ventilator. Like a ventilator, nobody wants to be in a ventilator. It's not good. It means that you can't breathe without assistance. Your like oxygenation levels in your blood are falling. You're gonna die, generally.
Calling for the king to dissolve parliament, which he can't actually do, backing this thug who's in prison called Tommy Robinson as some kind of Nelson Mandela figure, and so on. Now, look.
You're not going to like where they got that take from. Wait, what is this? Thread, 80% of the people they put on ventilators died. Joe Rogan told billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk on the Joe Rogan Experience Tuesday. So in fact, I actually posted about that, responded Musk, because I called doctors in Wuhan and said, what are the biggest mistakes you made on the first wave? This is early on. And they said, we put far too many people on intubated ventilators. So then I actually posted on Twitter at the time and said, hey, what I'm hearing from Wuhan is that they made a big mistake in putting people on intubated ventilators for an extended period, and that this is actually what is damaging the lungs, not COVID. It's the treatment. The cure is worse than disease. Bro, actually just fucking kill me, dude. Why is this fucking I'm being negative. Why? You don't know anything about medicine or whatever the fuck else. At the very least, qualify your statements or just don't talk about it. Like stay in your lane and just shut the fuck up and let the people that are like the medical professionals like actually do.
Well, 80% of the people they put on ventilators died.
Yeah. So in fact, I actually posted about that because, I called doctors in Wuhan and said, what are the biggest mistakes that you made on the first wave? This was early on. And they said, we put far too many people on intubated ventilators. So then I actually posted on Twitter at the time and said, hey, what I'm hearing from Wuhan is that they made a big mistake in putting people on intubated ventilators for an extended period. And that this is actually what is damaging the lungs, not COVID.
It's a different type of damage. Like I don't even know why. How ventilators stress the body. I'm sorry, if you don't understand the game that's being played here, this is trying to say that this is playing into the conspiracy theory that COVID didn't do anything bad at all, that COVID didn't matter. The only thing that was really hurting people were all the cures. That's what was actually damaging people, not COVID. That's what this conspiracy is playing into. Ventilators do damage lungs, yes, but in a different way. And it's not the same thing that, it's not the same, one is not a replacement for the other. I'm not a fucking... The fuck is this? What's the name of the... Oh, is it just this? Oh, barotrauma was one of them I was looking for. Mechanical ventilation with application of pressure to the lung. Oh, I'm sorry. And then just like a real quick thing. I'm not a pulmonologist, whatever the fuck you would need to even understand this. But like the way that your body works is there's like this complicated balance of when you breathe and your diaphragm is like contracting and expanding. There's like this whole pneumonologist, whatever the fuck. There's this whole complicated shit of like opening your lungs by contracting a muscle, and it brings air into the body, and then you close the lungs by, I think, the expansion of the diaphragm, right? You're doing all this stuff. This is like part of the mechanics of breathing. When that's not working for some reason, and you have to shove air into somebody's body, it's a different physiological process. Now, it's better than not breathing. That's not good. It's not good to not breathe, okay? But it's a more stressful thing, like traumatic, not in like the you have trauma. Well, yes, in your trauma, but like a physically traumatic, like causing injuries type thing to endure than your diaphragm breathing, right? Which is very ordinary and easy and not painful and shouldn't cause any issues at all. Than to put a tube down somebody's fucking airway and shove air into their body. That's a difficult thing to do. This is also one of the reasons why And another reason why Elon is especially retarded and should be fucking talking about this, because Elon Musk initially said that he wanted to make his own ventilators because he thought that ventilators were too expensive. And he said that it was a waste of money, that there were all these stupid expensive ventilators, and he could make one way cheaper than he can make one way cheaper than all these other stupid ventilator companies or whatever. But the reality is like the ventilator machines are very complicated. It's a sophisticated product. Again, you're shoving air into somebody's body. There's a lot of measurements and everything you have to take. The oxygenation levels, of like how, like the pressure levels and all this. It's a very complicated machine. It's not just a balloon that you're pumping air in and out of somebody's fucking lungs for. And Elon was critical when these first came out. I'm not going to go find the articles for all this, but CNN contacted 10 California hospitals identified by Musk in the partial list of recipients that he posted on Thursday, because Musk said he had sent out over 1,000 ventilators to hospitals. Of the 4 hospitals that responded, all said that they had received bi-level positive airway pressure or continuous positive airway pressure machines, devices that can aid breathing and be used for sleep apnea. None had received ventilators. We received 6 CPAPs, and we are very grateful for the gift, said a spokesperson for Sonoma Valley Hospital. Mammoth Hospital also said it received 10 bi-level machines from Tesla. They're not full ventilators, but they are lots of people. There are lots of people that need breathing assistance, a spokesperson said, calling the donation very gracious. Los Angeles County officials said that they received from Tesla 100 bi-level units manufactured by the company ResMed in late March. CPAP machines typically start around $500, while BiPAP machines can be had for about $1,200. Ventilators, however, range in the price range from $20,000 to $50,000. I feel like we all like mind wiped ourselves of this or memory hold this, but like Elon did this with a lot of things. Remember when there was the people who were trapped in the underwater cave or some bullshit, and Elon was like, I'm gonna make a sub to go save everybody. And then I think one of the divers was like, I don't really think you can just make a sub to go save everybody. And Elon's like, that's because you're a pedophile. Oh, was that in Thailand? Yeah, like it is generally regarded, based on animal models and human studies, that volutrauma is the most harmful aspect of mechanical ventilation. This may be regarded as the overstretching of the airways and the alveoli. By mechanical ventilation, the flow of gas in the lungs will take the path of least resistance. Areas of the lung that are collapsed, atelectasis, I don't know, or filled with secretions will be underinflated, while those areas that are relatively normal will be overinflated. These areas become over-distended and injured. This may be reduced by using smaller tidal volumes. Sorry, this is probably better than... It may occur in previously normal lungs or worsen pre-existing ARDS. I don't know what that stands for. About 1 in 4 mechanically ventilated patients develop VAI. The risk is likely higher in ARDS patients. I don't know what this is. Oh, acute respiratory distress syndrome. These are the types of ventilators. But anyway, I'm sorry. It's such a stupid statement. Sorry, Jesus. I didn't get any treatment, and it was still the closest I've ever felt to death. I'm young and recovered, but I still have permanent lung damage and compromised smell/taste 3 years later. Rogan and Musk are idiots. Did you try a CPAP machine?
It's the ventilators for an extended period. And that this is actually what is damaging the lungs, not COVID. It's the treatment. The cure is worse than the disease. And people yelled at me and said, I'm not a doctor. I'm like, yeah, but I do make spaceships with life support systems. What do you do?
I like that.
I twiddle knobs. I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Rock on.
Well,
what are the, like, these are the things. I listened to that one video. Elon is not an idiot. Elon is not an idiot. Elon is not an idiot. He's not retarded. He's not retarded. He's not retarded. He's not retarded. He's not. I listened to one video and I was like, okay, it sounds like he knows what he's talking about, at least for like some engineering thing. It sounded like he knew what he was talking about. This is such an unbelievably stupid statement to make. You make life support systems because you can like design, like have an atmosphere. Like, would you trust Boeing to make a ventilator for you because like their cabins are pressurized? Like, number 2, Elon Musk's statements about the ventilators are corroborated by Dr. Joseph Mercola. On June 7th, 2023, Mercola wrote about, quote, the COVID hospital death trap, end quote, on X. Here's what he stated on the subject. Within weeks of the pandemic outbreak, it had become apparent that the standard practice of putting COVID-19 patients on mechanical ventilators was a death sentence. Now, remember here, okay, listen to these numbers here and listen. Now we have the benefit of retrospecting, right? And how the narrative changed in real time. When COVID was first coming out, it was a Chinese bioweapon. It was like a thing created to kill us. And then like, oh my God, like it's actually the treatment that's killing everybody. And it's so deadly because of the hospitals and because of the pharmaceuticals. And now that we're at this stage, none of it was actually deadly ever. None of it actually mattered. It was like, it was all just a meme. It wasn't anything ever, actually. It was all bullshit the whole time, right? How the narrative changes and updates, but not in response to like scientific understanding or desire to learn or be able to handle the situation more effectively, but just in propaganda narratives, right? Is there a conspiracy attached to why the ventilators were being used so much? Who knows? Because the Jews or something on white people. Who is this guy? Dr. Mercola was one of the partners in a website called Stop COVID Cold, offering advice to the public on preventing and treating COVID-19 with alternative remedies. The website includes links to Mercola's online store, puts a strong emphasis on vitamin D. Anybody that talks about vitamin C super shots or vitamin D shit, 99% of the time is full of shit also. That's a really, really easy heuristic that'll save you from like almost all medical misinformation dipshits. He was warned by the FDA in February 2020 for selling fake COVID-19 cures. Hold on. What do you think are the chances that if I look this guy up, Joseph Mercola, do you think I can find him selling medical emergency kits that have ivermectin in them? What do you think? Does he have any businesses or anything at all? Free shipping available. Formulated by Dr. Mercola. The Mercola Market. Oh, it's all just supplements. Do you think he lost his license? Yeah, I don't see any prescription stuff at all. Rip. Okay, so anyways, Quack Doctor wrote about the COVID hospital death trap. Within weeks of the pandemic outbreak, it had become apparent that the standard practice putting COVID-19 patients on mechanical ventilation was a death sentence. 76.4% of COVID-19 patients aged 18 to 65 in New York City who were placed on ventilators died. Among patients over 65 who were vented, the mortality rate was 97.2%. The recommendation to place COVID patients on mechanical ventilation as a first-line response came from the World Health Organization, which allegedly based its guidance on experiences and recommendations from doctors in China. But venting... Wait, first-line response? What? Wait, what does first-line response mean? This is like the first treatment, the first product that you try to treat something, right? I don't know why I Googled this like a fucking retard. Ventilation is not a treatment for COVID. This is like a management of like a death tier fucking symptom. That's like saying one of the treatments for cancer or something is like a defib because you can have fucking heart arrhythmia or whatever the fuck you would shock. Like this is a meaningless. Nobody is saying that a mechanical ventilation is like a first line response to COVID, but okay. But venting COVID patients wasn't recommended because it increased survival. It was to protect healthcare workers by isolating the virus inside the vent machine. Data suggests that around 10,000 patients died with COVID in New York City hospitals after being put on ventilators in spring of 2020. Other metropolitan areas also saw massive spikes in deaths among younger individuals who were at low risk of dying from COVID. It's possible many of these deaths were the result of being placed on mechanical ventilation. No one told the patients.
She has audio recordings that I recently publicized of a conversation between her and a nurse, the nurse talking about how they're killing people in the hospital, how their floor was doing the things that no other floor would do because, well, no one other floors wanted to carry out the murder, essentially. They knew what was happening in a lot of cases. Dr.
At Destiny, I was in the ICU for 6 weeks on high flow oxygen, cancer patient, extremely sick before vaccinations. I was not placed on a ventilator, so I would call BS. Yeah, you don't go on a ventilating is not good for you. That's a harsh process. You wouldn't put somebody on a ventilator unless you like really fucking needed it. Like this person's like probably gonna die if he's not vented. You just wouldn't do that. Like imagine if you were like standing in an emergency room, you're like, and a doctor's like, what's going on? Are you okay? And you're like, I don't know, man. I feel kind of like woozy. Like woozy. It's like, yeah, I don't know. And they grab a knife and they fucking they trach you and intubate. You're like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I was worried you couldn't breathe. Let me shove the, and you're like, oh, like.
Cola just put out a paper where he discussed the use of ventilators. Ventilators, the concept for ventilators came from China. They said, well, if you put a ventilator on someone's face, they can't cough on you, so we'll keep the healthcare workers safe, right? Even though that we knew that, 75%.
Like, source this. Also, keep in mind, like he's got, where is this even at? Is he just providing some bullshit? Oh, the Pennsylvania State Senate. Okay.
Or so the people in New York City put on ventilators were dying. We kept doing it because we're going to protect the healthcare workers. That was the theory. Now, no one talked about that when the patients were going in there. No one told the patients, hey, you're being protected, or you're going to be put on this vent. It's probably going to kill you, but it may protect the healthcare workers. No one told the families that. And by the way, we actually had whistleblower testimony from a yet to be unmasked whistleblower, and probably won't be, who worked for CMS. I've got data from CMS that showed in a number of Texas hospitals as high as 90% of patients put on the vent died.
Like, if this guy's a real doctor, he should be whatever the fuck, disbarred. I don't know what it is called. Medical license away, probably thrown in prison for just fucking lying, or kicked out of the fucking country, okay? They call these night flights in Latin America, all right? Like, what do we... He's not a doctor, just an attorney? Wait, I thought they called him doctor. Wait, is this not... Oh, no, this is a different guy than the guy from... than Dr. Joseph Mercola. Sorry, this is an attorney guy. Gotcha. I don't care. Everything I just said still applies. Like, what number of people... Again, I feel stupid even saying this. Like, the number of people put on chemo probably die of cancer way more than people not on chemo. People, ironically enough... The people that are most likely to die from falling from high places are probably people with parachutes on. Or the people most likely to die from gunshot wounds are probably people with like bulletproof vests on. Or the people that are most likely to die from bombs are people with bomb squad. Maybe not 100%, right? Depending on how people die. But like, this is like such a, like, the people most likely to die in car accidents probably have their seatbelts on, right? The majority of drivers probably have their seatbelts on when they die. Like, I'm sure your risk of getting into a lethal accident is much higher if you don't have your seatbelt on, but just because so many people wear their seatbelts, I hope. But like, it's such a stupid...
90%. Now, they wouldn't let you try ivermectin, but they were more than willing to put you on the vent where you had a 90% fatality rate. You tell me that they didn't notice? You're telling me that the doctors on those floors... I mean, listen, I can't say all doctors are created equal. McCullough is a head above most, but you got through med school. I would think you would probably be smart enough to notice when 9 out of 10 of your patients, when they're put in the vent, die. At least maybe you should ask the question, is there a better way?
And not a single doctor in the entire world thought about this. But you, the really smart dude, okay, looks like a fucking Roblox character, you absolutely are the only one, you and this other weird dude, who also stand to gain a whole bunch of money by selling your bullshit-ass supplements.
Why not let someone try ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine?
Literally, people were. There were plenty of people off-label prescribing any of these things if they wanted to.
If you have a 9 out of 10 chance of dying anyways. The reason that that's dear to my heart is because the people called me and I fought with hospital after hospital after hospital to try and save their lives. And as I testified last year here, we essentially legislated these deaths into being by incentivizing the use of remdesivir in poor protocols.
That was the one that Alex Stein, the guy who killed his mom with COVID by telling her not to get vaccinated so that he can make a TikTok video of her dying in a hospital so that he could make money off of it because he's an absolutely shameless subhuman piece of shit. That's what he was crying about afterwards to the doctors. Remember, the only reason why conservatives don't like remdesivir is because I think Fauci said that remdesivir looked promising one time.
a trial that the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, which is the institute I direct sponsored, was started in February 21st of this year. And it was a randomized placebo-controlled trial comparing the Gilead drug remdesivir with a placebo. The data shows that remdesivir has a clear-cut, significant positive effect in diminishing the time to recovery. This is really quite important for a number of reasons, and I'll give you the data.
This is the reason why everybody hates remdesivir. It's just because of this one statement. I think it turned out, I don't believe that after trials, I don't think remdesivir did help at all. I don't think it's used as a treatment protocol at all. But that's why everybody, anytime you hear somebody who's like, I hate remdesivir, it's always because of that one thing.
Incentivizing the use of vents and incentivizing, again, not people recovering from COVID, but people dying from COVID. You got a cash bonus when someone died from COVID.
You get to code people and you get to have different payment amounts based on what people are being treated for, but it's because the treatment was more expensive. There's another bullshit talking point.
From COVID, but people dying from COVID. You got a cash bonus when someone died from COVID. So it was an incentive to kill people, and it worked incredibly well. I'm happy to revisit that, but again, my testimony from last year covered that.
It's been known that vents were for people in the worst conditions. Why are we revisiting this shit? Can't these people... Oh, because it was brought up. I'm so sorry. All of this reading and all of this bullshit that I just went through was just because of... Sorry, hold on. How long is this fucking thread? Oh my God. One sec. I've got data from CMS that showed in a number of Texas hospitals as high as 90% of patients put on the vent diet. Okay. This is just quoting him up here. Hospitals murdered COVID patients. The more they killed, the more money they made. For more details on how COVID patients became prisoners, watch this Epoch Times interview with Stella Paul below. Thanks for making it to the end. While you're here, check out these other stories from Vigilant News. Steve Kirsch died suddenly. Is being caused by the COVID vaccines. Proven correct. All of that was proven bullshit also, by the way. What do you think this guy's posting about now? I don't want to scroll down. Sorry, but anyway, the reason why I brought this up is because this guy just referenced, wait, was this a long time ago? Oh, no, you guys found this was a while back earlier. It's because Dave referenced how two doctors who were just having an innocent conversation about COVID got censored. It wasn't two innocent doctors having a conversation. It was people that were deliberately lying and spreading misinformation in order to enrich themselves and make more money because they were selling supplements and wanted to stand as the counterculture. For more information on these types of people, watch the documentary. Was this the name of the movie? This was made like in 2011, by the way. So this isn't supposed to be. So when you watch this, you might be thinking like, ooh, this is like a really cringe like way to kind of like ham up the COVID shit. Like this is like way over the top. No, this was made like 10 years before COVID ever came out. It just happened to predict every single scumbag, subhuman character that would come to dominate our media environments afterwards.
One man dies, another man makes money off his coffin. One country culls all their chickens, red meat goes into higher demand. I'm not the first person to...
Both of these claims were done, right? So somebody dies, you get paid money for it.
Country culls all their chickens, red meat goes into higher demand. I'm not the first person to make money off the fact that our immune system is a work in progress. The pharmaceutical industry do it every quarter.
It's just that the studies show that there is no proof that forsythia works.
Who conducted the studies?
Forsythia is his bullshit medicine that he's trying to sell and make money off of and get rich off.
It's just that the studies show that there is no proof that forsythia works.
Who conducted the studies? What defines works?
The government rushed the trials. The lawyers indemnified the drug companies.
Remember, you can't sue the vaccine companies. Why are they all given protection? None of the trials are trustworthy. It's the pharmaceuticals' own trials.
Maybe it causes autism or narcolepsy or cancer 10 years from now. Who knows? The swine flu vaccine killed people back in 1976.
Polio vaccine killed people. We didn't even need that because of the bad stuff, the Simonian virus, right?
And called Tommy Robinson as some kind of Nelson Mandela figure, and so on. Now, look, I dissolved Parliament, which you can't actually. Our Prime Minister, he's been basically taking on the country. And
Agree with Trump.
Let me segue just
American.
Okay, let me bring in.
One of my biggest angry with Trump is
let me.
Wait, did we watch this section? The entire section?
Apparently, from what I've read,
and they're able to access and get what they want, which is
no ability to have privacy laws to protect consumers, no ability to have new antitrust laws for Amazon and Netflix, and they're fighting with, and they flood the zone with
Green America. I think we should debate in good art.
He's been basically taking on the country in spectacular fashion, calling for our Prime Minister to be in prison, calling for the King to dissolve Parliament, which he can't actually do, backing this thug who's in prison called Tommy Robinson as some kind of Nelson Mandela figure, and so on. Now, look, I, for what it's worth, I think Elon is a genius, albeit like all geniuses, he's flawed. And one of his flaws is he's got this tremendously powerful...
Look at how awkward Timmy is when he can't dictate the flow of the conversation, right? Because on his show, he likes to ambush you with topics that he's like super well read on or has memorized every autistic little incorrect misinformation factoid on. But like when Piers has control of the conversation, Timmy has to be really careful how he enters because he's always like 2 questions away from complete and utter collapse because he really has no idea what the fuck he's talking about beyond whatever script he's sent by Natasha.
Tool now, which is his 200 million followers on his own platform. And whilst I like the fact he's let everyone come back on to X, I think that's definitely balanced things up. And I think he is genuine about his desire to want free speech to return. I am concerned that he doesn't quite understand, or maybe he does but doesn't care, just how powerful his battering ram is when he tweets things like free Tommy Robinson, who is, to most people in my country, an extremely insidious individual who should absolutely not be freed right now.
Why should Tommy not be free?
Well, because he's not the Nelson Mandela freedom fighter that most people in America seem to think he is. He's a convicted football hooligan who beat up a policeman and got convicted of that. He was convicted of...
I think that this is a debate tactic. I think Tim knows a little bit about this. We'll see how this argument goes. I think Tim knows a little bit about this, and when he asks Piers, why shouldn't he be free? Tim is trying to see what Piers knows about it so he can probe to do this like factoid abuse. This is always the manipulator, the abuser's tactic too. And interpersonally, people do this, is when somebody's trying to manipulate you or mind fuck you or gaslight you, they're going to ask you questions about a thing. If you don't know every single particular detail, they're going to find the one thing that you don't know, and they're going to blow that little hole wide open so that you can't have any grounding on the topic, basically. But we'll see how this conversation goes. Maybe not. Who knows?
Passport fraud, trying to get into America, convicted of mortgage fraud, convicted of 2 contempts of court where he nearly wrecked trials involving the rape gang suspects when they were on trial, nearly literally avoiding justice for the girls in those cases. He's now in prison, nothing to do with the rape gang scandal, but entirely to do with his defamatory conduct towards a 15-year-old Syrian.
Destiny never does this. Happy said in YouTube chat, find me a link of me doing it, you degenerate fuck. Not only do I not do that, I'll usually even grant people. I'll say something like, okay, well, maybe if this isn't the case here, then, you know, like we could move on from here. We could assume this, or I give people tons of leeway and charitability in my conversation. I never expect anybody to have a link handy or to know exactly every single particular thing.
Syrian refugee boy, who he first of all defamed, trying to make him the villain of a video where he'd been bullied. This ended up with the Syrian refugee boy suing him.
Jesus. Okay, so Piers knows lots of stuff. So my prediction is Tim is just going to try to backtrack into some vague like free speech position where it's just like some broad philosophical bullshit, and he's not going to fight on any of the facts. But let's find out.
£100,000 in damages, nearly £1 million in costs, and the judge telling Robinson, do not repeat these lies. And then he repeats all the lies in a movie that he produces as a so-called journalist, and he goes to prison for contempt of court, which he knows he's committing. So on every level, you can agree with his message about the rape gang scandal, where he's been right, like a lot of people, but you can also think he's about the most despicable messenger imaginable.
So we don't believe Mrs. Lincoln, how is the play?
This is the challenge.
Right.
We don't believe you because for decades...
You don't believe me? What have I said that's wrong?
Oh, now Piers has stepped into the ring. Who does know things? Uh-oh.
They're facts, Piers.
To be clear, which part of my rant is on...
Tim can't counteract anything what you said. You probably know 20 billion times more than Tim does. Tim probably is a surface level at best and probably knows all of the defending points for all the weird Nazi shit or whatever Tommy Robinson does all the defense of and the free speech arguments around that, but it's just going to be the broadest, vaguest bullshit. What can we predict Tim's argument? Something along the lines of like, well, we don't trust the charges against him. Everybody says these things, but he's only being charged for it because of political reasons. And the charges and the way he's being held are unfair. And he's been in solitary confinement, even though no one's ever done it like this before. It's the worst way in freedom of speech. And it's a political target. Everybody, that's my guess. We'll see what happens.
True.
So let me explain, not that I said you were wrong, but why we don't believe you. Because how long has been going on in the UK? These grooming gangs were being covered up. As the Telegraph reported, it was covered up to present the image of successful multiculturalism, where fathers were being threatened.
So Tommy Robinson is a hero of kind of like these weird, now they're Russian people, they used to be alt-right people, because Tommy Robinson was the one truth sayer about the mass Muslim rape gangs. And so that's the reason why people hate him politically now. This is why they say it's a political argument. Tommy was the only truth sayer, and he's the only one that came up and defended the white man against the evil Muslim rape gangs or whatever. And to be fair, the countries that is happening and fumbled the messaging on this really hard for stupid reasons too, because they didn't want to appear racist or something stupid. It seemed like there was legitimately stupid shit going on by the countries involved, but this is why Tommy Robinson is like worshipped by these people.
Threatened with arrest. Then you come to me and you say all these things about Tommy Robinson. And I tell you this, maybe you're right. I have no idea. I'm not from the UK. I'm seeing this story that's been bubbling up for some time now about how your country allowed little girls to have their bodies to be, I can't even describe the things that came out in those transcripts.
It's despicable, yeah.
Uncensored. No, despicable is an understatement. It was torturous.
I agree with you.
Government that, so when I see Elon say something like this country is the government of this covering this up, the police covering this up,
he's right.
I'm sorry. And right. So when I see Tommy Robinson in the United States,
he's deflating this completely. Piers will own this. Piers is not going to defend the Muslim rape gangs. He told you his thing completely clearly. Piers' issue is just that the guy is a really bad spokesperson because he's a neo-Nazi. He is a neo-Nazi. Tim is trying to do the virtue signal like, "Wah!" Like he tried it when he was screaming at Luke or whatever. But Piers isn't going to, he's not an SJW.
And again, I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm saying we don't believe that the attacks against Tommy are all entirely based on he's a bad guy who did bad things. You may be right. I don't know. I'm not from your country. What I see.
Oh, and then so Tim's going to walk away factually from everything. How far alt-right wing Bonger? I don't know if in Bonger you have right-wing people. How fine are they with Russia expanding? I'm not sure, but my guess is if you're a Bonger, you probably don't care as much. Probably the further east you are, the more kind of nervous you are about it. But for Bongers, I don't know how much. I'm sure in general they're not okay with it, but they probably don't think about it as much as people further east. We might guess, but.
See, as your country covered this up. The things that were done to these little girls, I'm going to say it. They put a pump in the anus of a 12-year-old girl to expand it so multiple men could rape her, and your country covered that.
He's just so much virtue signaling. It's so much virtue signaling.
Up, and then told me Tommy was the bad guy. And so I'm just like, look, man, I don't know. But when I heard that, I said the U.S. should be sanctioning the UK or doing whatever they can to remove all of those from power. I think they deserve prison for covering this up.
Yeah, but I think if you don't mind me saying, I think you're conflating two things, and that's my point. I totally agree with everything you've just said.
Good job. You had your moment, dude.
But I also believe that there is a completely weird misunderstanding of who Tommy Robinson is and what he represents in America, because he's managed to position himself very cleverly as this kind of freedom fighter who's only in prison because he blew the whistle on all this stuff, so they've silenced him by putting him in prison. None of that is true.
Except you did silence everyone else, and I should say you, sorry, I apologize for that, but your government was actively covering this up. So it creates a plausible scenario when Tommy Robinson is locked up over and over again, and people are like, here's a guy calling out the grooming gangs, the government's actively covering up, and now they're...
And the issue again for Tim, and this is one of the reasons why these people are evil at best and foreign actors at worst, is everything Tim is saying is true from the perspective of an uneducated midwit, right? Like, well, this guy was saying something and it seems like he whistleblown something that was contrary to the government. It seems like he actually was right on this one thing. Maybe he's right on everything. That's where you, a journalist, should step in and say like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to dig a little bit more, and I'm not going to give the opinion that you would expect from a 3-year-old, who played peekaboo once with his parents and realized his parents didn't actually disappear into oblivion when their face hid behind their hands. So now they're not going to trust him on anything, right? And let's actually investigate. Let's be a journalist and do real investigative work like Tim used to do before he was getting paid fat stacks of cash from the Kremlin to lie about everything. But
imprisoning him. By all means, I don't know about his trials or what happens.
All I would ask, you're a smart guy. All I would ask is, I just think it would be reasonable for me
to like have an analysis of the situation. You don't have to have like the crazy reaction, like, you mean him what? So every single thing he says is probably right. You can act, like you're older than 12 years old.
Over here in the UK, to say to all my American friends, just go and look at his criminal record, see what he was actually convicted of and why, and draw your own conclusions. And then I would say, then I would say, go and look at the judge's verdict in the defamation case, where you'll see a very, very well. It's actually worth 20 minutes of your time. What you'll understand.
Elon Musk wants you all to do. I'm sorry, Tim. Like, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story as an expression of Asian journalism.
Oh, yep, and she's right. She's right. Tim doesn't care about the facts. It's all about narratives. Current administration's bad. Elon Musk has these same marching orders, by the way, right? That's why he's calling for the, Trudeau to step down. He's calling for the UK government to step down. He's calling for all 100%. These are the marching orders. All of the incumbents, all of these vaguely liberal, whatever, left-leaning people, they're all bad. They all need to go. We need more fascists, more authoritarians, because I can exert influence and control over them easier than a democratically responsible person, right? Because they answer to me and not their constituents.
They pulled 34 charges with beyond the statute.
There is no evidence that they resisted prosecutions out of political correctness. The person who was the actual chief prosecutor had supported. No, you're misreading. Well, whatever, Tim.
He's not miss anything. He just doesn't know. Well, no, he is misrepresenting. I'm so sorry. You're right. I assumed ignorance. She's assuming malice, or her words were implying malice, but he is being malicious. You're right.
Actually, to be fair, on that point, there is a growing body of thought across.
How hilarious that on this panel of insanely emotionally compromised childish men, it's our brave, powerful woman here who has the facts on her side, by the way.
Across the board, actually, that political correctness did contaminate the local... hang on, let me finish your point. Let me finish. That it did contaminate the thinking of local councillors, of the police, who clearly were corrupt in some cases, of senior government people as well, that there was a general fear that enveloped them all, that they couldn't take the action they felt they should take, because the repercussions would be they would be branded a bunch of racists.
In the Times investigation by Andrew Norfolk, which I think was a terrific investigation, they counted 14 grooming gang prosecutions. In 2022, there were 35 grooming-related convictions in Starmer's last 3 years. This is Elon doing his Elon thing, which is exactly what he does. He takes a small bit of possible problem and mistakes and books it out, and then Tim gets a hold of it and decides.
And then it's not just a problem or mistake anymore. Now it's an intentional top-down conspiracy to undermine the white whatever, and
conflates 3 or 4 different things together so that, possibly you could, and there was a lake, and, it's the same thing that the Loch Ness Monster.
It's the same. My own agency. I don't get my news from Elon Musk.
No, true. Him and Elon both get it from the Kremlin.
At that, but it's just, this is an attempt by him. I bet, my guess, I always look for whatever the grift, the business grift happens to be. They probably don't much like the Online Safety Act there at Twitter. They probably, that you have in Britain, which has controversies, believe me. We have the same issue at COSA here in the United States. Lots of things you can debate back and forth over how it should be done, because it's a very difficult issue around kids' online safety. And the fact of the matter is, in the United States, we protect kids offline more than we protect them online, which is really quite something. It's an astonishing situation. We overprotect them offline and underprotect them online. I've just done a series of really important interviews with people at Character AI and how kids are used. I just had the Yonder CEO, where you put phones away, and the deleterious effects of that. But what's happening with Elon is he has gotten a taste of power, and he says, this seems to work here, and I'm going to create all kinds of business. Now,
Americans attempting to copy paste their talking points onto the UK when it makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah, but bongers do it too. When you fucking retards all saw like Trump as some huge fucking ally when you guys wanted to Brexit or whatever. I think that Brexit and the Trump shit were pretty closely aligned, to like joined at the fucking hip for a while. It's happening where like this world culture, these world internet cultures are trying to say everybody's problem is the same problem, and everybody's got the same issues, and everybody's got...
He's not a British citizen. It's none of his business. It's none of his fucking business, first of all. He wants political power and the ability to turn into, which I said right when he bought Twitter, a modern day Rupert Murdoch is what he's going for. He wants media power.
Except worse than Murdoch, because I think that Elon is more blatant than Murdoch was.
Power and control for his own self-interest and his own financial interest and his own ability to influence things. If you think, literally, it makes me laugh when you think about the idea of, first of all, they all act like victims. Elon's always on some victim thing that someone's out to get.
True. They're always the victim while being in the position of power every single time. The world's richest man is the victim, right? Always. True.
When the world's richest people whine and moan about how they're victims, how they're misunderstood, how they don't have the thing, when they have got the power and the influence and the money to over everything in their own business self-interest.
Where they're the president. How often are we going to hear about the victims of Elon Musk and Donald Trump in his own administration, where he's the most powerful man in the world, the president of the United States, with the richest man in the world? How much are we going to hear how victimized they are?
Something has gone desperately wrong with what we are. We have an idolatry of innovators that has become undeserved for these people. It's all about their men. It is all about their money. Every single thing leads to some financial.
Okay, Dean, you respond, then I'll come to Dave after you.
Piers, first of all, today you called Elon Musk a genius. Yesterday I watched this show. You called him a genius numerous times. He's not a genius. Piers, you are a genius.
He is a genius.
I say that. It's the first time on the show. It's getting up to you. I think you're a genius in certain ways. You've had success on different platforms. Elon Musk, my friend, is a cancer to democracy. That's what he is. His goal, and I challenge everyone watching, Google Elon Musk and criticism of China. What you'll find is
Elon Musk being a cancer to democracy is the easiest position in the world to believe if you're a libertarian or if you're whatever the fuck Tim Pool was. Like, everybody would have agreed with this. All of the people on here, or I can't speak for these actually, but these two would have agreed with that 10 years ago, 100%. Yeah, the richest man in the world, who has the ear of the US president, who owns one of the largest news social media companies in the United States and the world. Yeah, of course, that's not good. But
article after article about, well, Elon Musk refuses to criticize the Chinese leadership. Even Steve Bannon, the philosopher king of MAGA, just said Elon Musk's paymaster is China. Vivek Ramaswamy said in 2023 that Elon Musk is a circus monkey. That's his word, a circus monkey for China. You just have Elon Musk block a budget deal according to Democrats and communists because they had a provision banning investments in China. And Elon Musk wants to build a battery factory and AI storage plant there. Elon Musk's biggest factory outside of the U.S. is in Shanghai. 50% of his cars come from China. This man's all about the money. That's why Piers goes after Keir Starmer and Nigel Farage.
I would say, I would say this though. In response to that, I would say you can be all about the money, but you can also come from inherently a good place, right, in your heart. And the reason I say that is I look at what he's... Well, let me just present the argument. I think that what he's done with Starlink, what he's done with Neuralink, what he's done with Tesla, what he's done with all these things, what really is motivating him? Yes, to make...
Well, I mean, it's also, all of these things are also very conveniently personally enriching him, and he's the richest man in the world, right?
Money, but also actually to save the planet, you could argue, from itself. I mean, I sat with him for a couple of hours in the summer listening to him talking about why we have to colonize Mars and humanoid robots or something. And of course, part of it is he's going to make himself even richer. He admitted that. But also, I just got a feeling of a guy who genuinely thinks the planet is eating itself alive and people like him have to save it. Now, you might not agree with
No, Piers, there's one thing. let me tell you, I think that's true. He does have those interests, and I've probably done more interviews with him than anyone else. Long form, not anymore. We don't speak. But one of the things that has occurred to me over the many years is he doesn't want to just save humanity. He thinks he is the savior of humanity.
Yes.
One interview that we did when Tesla was on the ropes and was actually getting money from the federal government, he said, if Tesla doesn't survive, humanity is doomed. And I thought that was unusual and disturbing thing to say.
Well, he said if Trump didn't win, I think humanity was doomed.
Yes, he's very dramatic. He's a bit of a drama queen in many ways. I think he thinks, and one time we did an interview, he thought we all live in a simulation, which I thought was interesting.
Which, by the way, we might. How do you know we don't?
Well, it feels like it every day. It feels like
Cara,
every
you and I
day.
have no idea if we're even really here.
Some teenager of the future is fucking with all of us. I get it. I get the whole idea. And they're just playing a video game now. Amazon funds Melania's movie. Now this. You could just see them just doing things like this.
All right. I want to bring in Dave because he'd be very patient.
I think he's ready. He's a big video game proponent. He's very good at video games, by the way. That is one thing I think he's quite good at. He is.
Even she bought the video game misinformation. He's never been good at video games. That's not true at any video game ever.
He thinks he's Ready Player One, and the rest of us are NPCs. Is that right? And non-player, whatever they characters. We are all NPCs in the world of Elon Musk in his brain in some fashion. So that's.
He actually said. In fact, let me get the exact wording of this because he posted to me yesterday. Piers' brain hasn't received its software update yet.
Well, my heart is seething with hate, so that's better. That's better, I guess.
Dave Smith, Elon Musk, a force for good or bad or a bit of both?
Well, I'm sure he's a bit of both, like everyone else. I don't look. I try not to get into this like game of psychoanalyzing what people's motives are. I'm sure I'm guilty of it at times too.
Wait. Didn't we just hear in the whole beginning of this him rejecting the idea that the government or Facebook ever made mistakes? Hold on. I'm so sorry. Wait. Hold on. I'm so sorry. We're at 3904. Hold on. I am so sorry. Hold on. Let me do a rewind on this.
Psychoanalyzing.
Or bad or a bit of both?
Well, I'm sure he's a bit of both, like everyone else. I don't look. I try not to get into this like game of psychoanalyzing what people's motives are. I'm sure I'm guilty of it at times too. Look, obviously.
What did he say earlier where he was like, you think that it's just a coincidence that the FBI and all of the, what are the words that I'm looking for? It was in this video. It was 30 minutes ago.
Intelligence officers signing on to this letter saying that this is the Russian disinformation, and he admitted to censoring people for that. I mean, this is like blatant election interference by the FBI and one of the biggest tech companies out there. I mean, I would think if you're going to reverse that, it would also come along with like an apology and some admission of what you were a part of. Point in American history.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was in New York store. New York, most blatant attack on free speech I've ever seen.
It's not free speech. It's not a government. It's not by billion.
I certainly was not. Listen, I was really since Donald Trump won control. But is the claim here that those intelligence officers made a mistake and really?
Here we go. That's so funny. He's not even disagreeing on the facts. He's disagreeing on the psychoanalysis. This is a state of mind disagreement. This is an intentionality state of mind disagreement. Here we go.
Information problem under control. But is the claim here that those intelligence officers made a mistake and really thought this was Russian disinformation?
And then our government,
it was Hunter Biden's laptop?
Our government.
Psychoanalyzing what's, I don't look, I try not to get into this like game of psychoanalyzing what.
Because when it's Elon Musk, we can't possibly psychoanalyze. Remember the game plan. As long as you remember the strategy book, you know what everything is going to be, okay? It's not that Russia's good. It's not that Elon is good. It's not that Trump is good. We don't ever defend them. We don't need to defend them. We just say they're funny and they're epic and they all make mistakes. But when you're asked to criticize them, it's always everybody's bad, okay? I'm not saying they're the best. Yeah, everybody's got issues, though. Everybody's bad. And then refocus on who's really bad, which is the left, the Democrats, the whoever. It's always refocus. Don't defend the side that you're always on. Basically, you're giving defense to. Don't ever outwardly defend them. Just say everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has these issues. And then America bad.
People's motives are. I'm sure I'm guilty of it at times too. Look, obviously there are conflicts of interests, and there are, Elon Musk is going to have his own incentives, which is true for every rich, powerful, donor. It's the way the American political system is set up, whether or anyone on the panel likes it or not.
Yes.
We weren't choosing between no influential donors or Elon Musk. We were choosing between, George Soros and Miriam Adelson. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. I think that Elon Musk buying Twitter for $44 billion, which certainly it's going to be pretty tough to convince me that that was motivated financially. I don't think that was like the best money-making scheme, but
And George Soros's donations to random fucking shit are the best money-making scheme? Having the ear of the president of the United States wasn't worth the acquisition of Twitter?
I think by buying Twitter,
done very well with it. Done very well.
Yeah.
With it.
Well, okay. So, you're kind of stuck. Okay. Well, you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place now, because that does seem to make him a genius, which you wanted to deny. But
I tell you, Dave, just on that one point, on the one point about the money.
Genius investor.
Well, let me tell you why he's a genius. He bought X, then he went all in on.
Okay, we made it through that one without saying anything mean about our side. Okay, all right, let's go.
On Trump. Trump wins, and just by Trump winning, his stake, Musk's stake in Tesla made him $100 billion, which is more than twice the valuation that he paid for X.
Let me just say,
so that is business genius.
Tesla's car deliveries are down, which is astonishing.
I would say that's the form of genius. Dave, finish your point.
Others would.
Well, look, I mean, the broader point and the reason why Elon has gained so much like hardcore support over the last couple of years
is authentic Americans. It's because he resonates with Americans. Or, if we don't want to say nice things about Elon, blame the left. Okay? Which direction are we going to go? Blame the left or glaze Elon?
Is just, again, it goes back to the stuff that we were talking about at the beginning. He bought Twitter, and promised to make it a free speech platform. Now, by the way, my biggest criticism of him is that he's fallen short of that goal. And there are still people who are censored. There are still people who are kicked off. And I don't think he's done a great job of making the rules very clear and then applying them equally across the board. But there's just no question that for so many of us, this was the big fear over the last 8 years, was that we could be silenced. We wouldn't be allowed to speak up and tell the truth as we see it anymore. And he protected a lot of us, or at least gave us the feeling that we're much more protected than we were back then. Yeah. And so that is going to get like people like me and Tim, who are people who were, let's just say, we were saying a lot of the things that put you at risk of being censored.
And also, I would say
it's not a small thing.
Yeah, no, I want to get into Greenland in a moment, whether it should be invaded, which is, I can't believe I'm saying that. But before we do that, Tim, I mean, it seemed to me when look
at these disgusting, fucking gross, fucking Russian stooges laughing at how fucking hilarious and epic that was. For all of Tim's energy earlier about the grooming rape gangs and this lady being raped and all that, what does he have to say for all of the bodies buried in Mariupol or Bucha, right? Are the two places with the most civilian graves were being found, or the videos of I think it was Assad soldiers that were shooting people, leading into a ditch and shooting them, and all the other shit that came out, that has come out over, was it Bucha, not Bucha? Where's Tim's energy for any of those people? Oh, he didn't have any. It was the, you just said Ukraine is the enemy of America or whatever. I don't even want to find this.
I believe I'm saying that. But before we do that, Tim, I mean, it seemed to me when they banned Trump from social media, but they still allowed the Ayatollah of Iran and Putin and the head of the Taliban to have accounts. Right there was the absurd double standard of what they were doing.
But Elon does that too. Elon does that
no,
too.
I'm not saying he doesn't do that to a degree.
He forces you to watch him.
Yeah, listen, I'm not saying by any means he's without blemish.
Pretending he doesn't use it.
No, but nor should we, nor should we pretend that the liberals, when they were in charge of the trade set, weren't doing ridiculous things.
I'm saying the le roi c'est moi. He does whatever he feels like. And by the way, he should. He owns it. Yeah. But let's not pretend he doesn't. When he's in India, he does a different thing than when he's in
Venezuela. I agree. And
yes, but there's a difference in scale and kind between that.
Because it's him.
Well, hold on. Well, let me finish the sentence. Instead of just cutting me off, that's obviously not what I'm saying, and I'm not friends with Elon Musk. I've never met the guy. I'm not like saying anything. There is a difference between the fact that, yes.
What's he going to say? There's a difference between the fact that Elon might make mistakes sometimes, but the last evil shit came from our government, maybe?
you're right. It's not a perfect free speech zone. I just made that same criticism of him.
But
there's a difference between that and what was done through the COVID years, where people were straight up. I mean, people were censored for telling the truth. They were censored for telling the truth about enormous changes in society.
Under who, by the way? Who was that again? Who was the president for that again? I keep forgetting. We never say his name. It's very weird.
True. I'm afraid the censorship that was going on was completely outrageous.
But it's a private platform. This is my.
Who was president? Who was president? One of these two. Please bring it up. Who was president? Who's president?
I'm like,
who's administration?
This is regime. A government entity. It is.
It is a private platform.
Very involved.
That doesn't mean
the government. What part of the government? Which government? Whose government?
You're immune to criticism. Tim, we've only got a few minutes left. I do want to get into whether America should be invading Greenland.
The chief counsel of Twitter was having regular meetings with the federal government, being advised on what to remove, and both X, at the time Twitter, and Facebook operated.
That's not what happened. Thank you. God, yes. Just correct. Tim has been fucking handled. She has fucking dog walked him every single time. Little Jakovsky Timothy or whatever the fuck is trying to come out here with it and walk these stupid bullshit points. You're like, no, Tim, you're actually fucking retarded. Tim, we just got your test score back on your IQ test. It just says F for failure. Okay. No, you actually don't know at all what the fuck you're talking about. You just made all of that up. Sorry, dipshit. Sorry.
Back doors, which we got to click and we got to actually load up the login screens for how to do this. And we all got the emails from the Eric Barron.
What the fuck are you? The login screens for the back door and the
lawsuit showing that they were regularly saying, we're flagging this for removal. And everybody knows when the federal government comes to you and says, we're making the suggestion, wink, wink.
Oh, everybody knows. What did he say? Sorry, say that again.
And everybody knows when the federal government comes to you and says, we're making the suggestion, wink, wink, we know it's not. When the federal government comes to you and says, we're making the suggestion, wink, wink, we know it's not.
Okay. So what does he have to say about about Trump saying things like, all I can say is that if I'm elected president, we will pursue election fraudsters at levels never seen before, and they will be sent to prison for long periods of time. We already know who you are. Don't do it, Zuckerbucks. Be careful. Or Donald Trump's just the president, so he doesn't count as part of the government.
Okay, Tim, should America, before we run out of time, should America be seizing Greenland and the Panama Canal?
Seizing? I don't understand why.
Why are you guys saying seizing? Trump is clearly joking, and Trump's not going to seize it. He's just like memeing about, but maybe we can like buy it. I think that buying it might be like a really good idea. Maybe purchasing. Hold on, fuck. I'm sorry. Maybe purchasing it can be a good idea.
There's this presumably fake outrage over Donald Trump trying to trade negotiate control of certain regions.
There we go.
I think war is bad. I think
war is bad. Well, at least you took a strong position on it. Thank you so much. My goodness. War is bad.
Territorial gains should be handled through beneficial trade between all parties. If the U.S. government, through Donald Trump, goes to Greenland and offers the people of Greenland a really great deal that improves their lives, I don't see why that's a problem for anybody. The Panama Canal, I mean, we built it. There's a question about what it's being used for. It's falling into disrepair. I don't like the idea of military force. That's insane. But if Trump goes there and says, look, we're going to offer you X amount of dollars in investment. We're going to grow the region. It's going to be good for you, good for me.
Then
that sounds
great.
Awesome.
Yeah, Dean, I mean, is there any, I mean,
now keep in mind, if the federal government even talks to you, there's a threat. But the president of the United States saying he's not ruling out military action against you, that comes by your little canal and is like, sure would be a shame if somebody came by and butt-fucked your country for not handing this over. That's just a free trade negotiation.
I think the problem was Trump didn't rule out military force, which was, I think...
Well, you can't take it off the table. Everything's got to be on the table. Come on. People need to continue to ask Trump more and more extreme questions just to see where he'll draw the line. Donald Trump, are you taking nuclear attacks off the table for negotiations for the Panama Canal and for Greenland? No. Donald Trump, Would you take off the table the concept of drilling to the center of the earth to plant nuclear weapons underneath the crust or the mantle or whatever the fuck of Panama and causing the planet to bulge and for Panama to go flying off the planet? Like, it should just be more and more ridiculous questions.
An overreach, to put it mildly. But in terms of, I didn't know much about Greenland and the Panama Canal's history. When you actually look into it, you know, I saw John Fetterman talking about it. He seems to be a voice of common sense amid all the partisan shrieking these days. But actually, when you look at it, there's a perfectly sound argument why America might want to
conquer it and take it over again. What about Taiwan?
Territorially Greenland, if they were up for it, and the Panama Canal.
Take your word. Take. Negotiate.
If Trump was looking,
hang on, Cara, I will come to you.
If Trump was looking for an island to take, I would recommend Aruba. I go there every year. It's really warm. It's nice. I want to go through customs. I hate to make it selfish. That would be start with Aruba, and we'll go from there. Look, with Greenland, the idea of let's remind Americans, we bought Alaska from Russia in the 1800s, right? If we made a deal with the people of Greenland, because they have the right to choose their way, and they wanted to join America, become a state, and we can work a deal with Denmark, I have an idea, Piers, that can actually work. You make Greenland a state, Puerto Rico, and D.C. a state, all three at the same time. That's a deal. You'll get Democrats on board. We expand the Senate, 2 Democratic senators from each state, probably.
Now they're like, actually, I don't know about this now.
I love this idea. Wrap it up. Here's, I think I solved it all.
Yeah. Interestingly, Greenland was for Kamala Harris 83 to 13% or something like that. Some number.
But Cara, did you even? Cara, hang on, Cara. Be honest. Did you know, Cara, that Denmark owned Greenland? Because I didn't.
I did not know that. But here's the thing: they're looking for rare earth minerals there. That is, and military installations. That's what's happening. Again, I always go to business. I'm like, what's the actual business? And there are rare earth minerals there that are necessary. As usual, Trump, who likes it feels like a game of Risk for Dummies. Like, I'm going to take it. It's fine to do those deals, Tim. If they want to negotiate them, people should have their own self-interest in mind and stuff like that. But he just likes to throw in these dumb, I could take it militarily if I wanted to. Like, it's so inane to do that. If you want to do a good deal, you don't send your son to take photos with your little jackets with your names on them in green. It's such a circus. And the only thing
it's embarrassing too. It's cringy. This is supposed to be the person that represents our country, and he's acting like an actual fucking cringe lord.
That is a circus about it is, you have a state like California burning, like having very significant wildfires at the time. It makes us look so stupid. Just say we want the rare earth minerals and we want a military base for our subs because we want to counter the Russians. And over in Panama, we need that. It's a critical thing, and we need it in good shape. Just say it.
Well, you have to be fair. He did phrase it collectively.
I like how every time somebody else is talking, Tim never like pushes too much on his points because he's like a little kid. And he's like scared of being.
These would be military. Well, yeah, but he did. I think that was a misstep. But he did say that this was all for America's security. He said it would be improved by having both, and there is an argument, indisputably, that he's right.
Absolutely fine. But at the same time, misstep is a nice way of saying, like, why do that? Why not be very straight? I think politicians in the future should be straightforward with the people. We want to do this and put it out as good ideas versus to create. Everything is creating noise.
I think, you know what? I want to bring Dave Smith in. I want to bring Dave in because the truth is that Trump is a bit like his 60% tariffs for China. Nobody actually expects him to level 60% tariffs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now we're going to, Oh, now when Fauci said that one thing, I was able to figure out just from that one statement that he was profiting off the millions of dying people and lied about the masks and et cetera, et cetera. But Trump, I don't take him seriously on anything. Comrade Dave, please tell us, why should we not take Trump seriously on anything ever? And it's all just negotiating tactics. And it's actually kind of funny memes. Please take it away, Dave.
He's taking a battering ram to get what he really wants. And it may be with Greenland. He's just letting it breathe for a bit. That America may invade the place. Of course, he's not going to invade Greenland. But he wants people to be a little bit twitchy. Yeah. So when he comes with a nice...
Not just people, but our allies, by the way.
Little deal. They're like, you know what? I prefer that to an invasion.
It's funny how Piers is just laying out the exact fucking thing I just said about the mafia coming by me. Like, sure would be a shame if somebody fucked your shit up.
I mean, as coarse as it is, I suspect it's just Trump being Trump the negotiator.
Yes.
Well, I think that's right. I think this is Donald Trump's art of the deal philosophy that, like, why would I ever take coercion off the table if I have that in my back pocket? Why would I start the negotiation by taking away my strongest overt play?
Of course.
The other thing is that, and look, we've lived through this once before, right? Donald Trump was president for 4 years.
And nothing happened. Remember, when he was president for 4 years, okay, so hold on. Let's see if we can get these points. First, let's lie about things, lie about the economy, okay? Donald Trump deficit spent. His economy didn't really outperform Obama as much at all. Didn't really even do that great on the fucking border. Mismanaged COVID like fucking crazy. Didn't manage to got any significant legislation passed beyond like fucking tax cuts. Didn't get any legislation, anything passed on the board. Everything was a failure. And January 6th also, oh my God, this is so important, okay? Hopefully we can hit this. Stick the landing at the end is to say that January 6th was a meme and nothing bad happened, okay? All right, let's go. Please, give me the big play-by-play. I need you to make Trump's disastrous 4 years in office as palatable as possible, please.
Like, we've lived through this once before, right? Donald Trump was president for 4 years.
Nothing bad happened.
Donald Trump says wild things that drive the news story, and then everybody's talking about the latest thing we have to say. And it's part of this, whether intentional or unintentional.
Mention how nothing bad happens. Mention how he uses these as negotiating tactics, but didn't negotiate anything. He didn't negotiate anything that he likes or he's proud of or he's happy. Remember, bring up that these were all negotiating tactics, but he didn't actually negotiate anything with. Please bring that up.
This is part of how he floods the zone with constantly talking about Donald Trump. But if you're asking me sincerely what I think about this policy, I mean, I guess I wouldn't be much different than the rest of the panel. Negotiations and things like that are fine. The idea of any type of like expansionist military move is insane. And personally, I think
he's not going to do it.
Personally, think we're way too big of a country right now. And the last thing we need to do is be absorbing more territories. I think America has many very, very serious problems, and coming off of 20 years of disastrous terror wars and now the proxy wars in Ukraine and in Gaza, I think the last thing America needs to do right now is say, hey, what else can we take on? So look, America is the global empire. We're the most powerful government in the history of the world. We don't need to seize the Panama Canal in order to make sure that we can do business there. There's lots of other ways that we can.
When I read the Jimmy Carter.
Okay. Sorry. We went with the braver war is bad stance. Okay. Respectable.
Gave it away for $1, I think it was, in 1977. I didn't know all that stuff. And actually, when I saw Trump's argument about the Panama Canal, I was like, you know what? He's got a point. Which he often does.
Remember, Reagan did that. Reagan did.
Oh no, she hasn't gotten with the program. These guys all hate Reagan now. They all hate, Piers might not, but these guys hate Reagan. They hate Bush. They hate everybody. Just the cult leader is the only one they like. So she tried to take a play out of the fighting with the neocons or Tea Party libertarian playbook where you can invoke the names of their sacred daddies. But the new MAGA people, they'll say, oh yeah, fuck Reagan. I don't like it. Dave, I'm surprised that Dave wasn't like fucking chomping at the bit to come out here and shit on Reagan or Timmy.
Well, Dean, I'm afraid we're running out of time. I just wanted to ask Cara one last question, which is this, because I think you're the best person on the panel equipped to answer this. Many people believe it is a matter of when, not if, Elon Musk and Trump have a spectacular falling out. Do you agree? Yeah, and what timeline are you giving it?
Well, I just interviewed actually Maggie Haberman for an hour on the podcast, and we talked about that. And I definitely have been getting calls from Trump people who are at first were like, Elon's the best. Elon's so fantastic. And they're like, wow, he's strange, Kara. You were right, or he can be erratic and this and that. And they go, what do we do? What suggestions do you have? And I just say, good luck, and I hang up because I'm like, he's yours. He bought you. He broke you. That's how I feel about it. And she thought, and I think she's correct, Trump is irritated by his presence, and it probably will change once he gets to the White House. It's a very different thing. The question whether he gets a West Wing office, whether he gets one of those blue cards that allows you instant access, that's a good question. See what happens there. I think that she feels like Trump is a one-ring circus, and there's only one ringmaster. And he is irritated behind the scenes, and if you bother him in front of the scenes about it, he'll say he loves him, because why not love the world's richest man who gave you all this money to help you get elected and was critical to that and can be used as a cudgel against other congressmen and everything else. I suspect there will be a breakup, and it will be spectacular, and we will have to endure it, unfortunately. Personally, I would like to get better characters in a new season of something, but probably in the end, it is a one-ring circus. I think Maggie's right, and her reporting is correct that there is irritation, and in the end, Trump will prevail in that regard, although Elon will still be the richest in the world.
I've got to leave it there.
Sorry for none of these people. So.
I've got to say, that was a brilliant panel. So thank you all very much indeed. And I wish you all a very happy new year. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Piers. Bye.